And we're back with an open class doodle. Is it number 11 already? I can't believe it. Time is flying by. This year is opening up wide its portals, its gates, its doors to new discoveries, to sensational stuff that we can do. And yeah, also to a little bit of research, a bit, and getting something to learn, like a new skill, improve your skill set, improve your performances, improve also your geek level, like we're doing today. So, welcome to all of this. This is the COACHMC studio. This is the place where we help actors, performers, entertainers, nerds, communicators, professional sellers, pitchers, all these people that need somehow to kind of, just transmit something, sell something, communicate something, or perform something in front of the camera. This is the place where we help you to shape those unique behavior deliveries that are compelling and interesting. And today, we are also serving, our nerd part. We are serving our passion, but also the research, of course, because what we're talking about today is ancient Greek mythology. It's powerful stuff. Ancient stories, old tales, old lores, metaphors, analogies. So much to learn, so much to draw, from. And I can't wait to jump into today's episode and kind of discover all these beautiful secrets from the past. Of course, with a super history savvy guy, legendary Dragon Slayer commentaries is joining me tonight. And I can't wait to jump in today's episode. So without any further ado, let's see what's cooking with the stories. What's up, sir? How are you? Thank you so much for stopping by.
Hey, man. Hey, as usual, I'm glad to be here. It's the second time
It's
were going to be talking about Greek mythology, right?
Yes, the 12 labors of Hercules. The intro just kind of swooped me over. Like you said, all right, enough of this monologue.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Let's do it.
No, because in the first episode where we had the privilege to meet, we talked about the first age of the gods, right? The primordial beings, how everything came into mind according to Homer, according to Greek mythology. And probably we just got too excited also last time. I've heard a couple of comments of people writing me, hey, guys, could you do this a little bit more? It's like because we were a bit excited, I think, about this. We were a bit all over the place. So just to inform you guys, so what we're doing is based on the works that we got from a guy called Homer. He's from the 8th century BC, and he's the first that we have, from the Greek literature side, where we can say, all right, these are the accounts how the stories approximately from 2500 BC, from the ascending empire of Crete, that is the Minos Empire that took over the Aegean Sea, and then kind of sort of started the fundamentals of what later became the city-states of Greece, of Hellas, of Athens, and so on and so forth. So back to that time, this is where everything started, pretty much the Bronze Age of antiquity, where we are kind of rolling up the events. And we started with the first age of the gods, which was like an incredible event. I mean, did you like it? And also now we kind of show again the drawing of the first episode.
Yes. No, I enjoyed that stream a lot. We really went ham with it. And let me tell you something, this drawing really helped to make sure that we were kept on track, because
I mean, this is
we would have gone. Yeah, we knew we were going to go way out of left field if we didn't have the pictures here to guide us. But
right.
This was no, dude. Like when we get into something, we go straight into it, and we kind of forget everything else, and then we're like, oh no.
And for sure, I mean, some people could say, yeah, but what's the benefit of this? I mean, what can you get out of this? Now, first of all, let me address something. If you have a passion, right, whatever field that passion kind of is, what kind of field of expertise it is, and you really dedicate some time to this, and you really appreciate also improving with that passion. That may be a skill, a language, an instrument that you play, or historical research like Dragon Slayer commentaries likes to do, what I love to do, right? Kind of, digging a little bit in the past, whatever that is. I mean, that stuff is what cultivates you, what builds your character, right? Which informs you in different ways, instead of just being, relied on information that comes from your workplace or from your usual environment. This is something on your own that just belongs to you. That's why whenever you're practicing something like this, in my opinion, and I mean, this is also my experience speaking here, it is always beneficial to your product. It's always beneficial to your service when you have like an idea of what Greek mythology is, to understand names of that ancient time, how the hero's journey works, what you can sell as something exciting, to make metaphors like this, right? It's always interesting when you're kind of, coming into a room and you understand what these primordial, currents are that are in between man and woman and the 7 days that we have every week, right? So there is some sort of a connection with the research that you do with whatever it is that you're researching in, that you're looking into, that is beneficial also for your private life, for your business life, for your performance life. So that's why I feel, as well as, of course, being actors who are nothing else than the continuation. And please, I mean, Dragonslayer, let me know if you're contrary to this, but I mean, actors are just a continuation of the ritualistic drama that was installed in Greece, right? That started in Crete and the Minoan Empire, and probably even before that, like in
yeah, no, you're right. It's always been a recurring tradition in a lot of cultures to have people that are just very efficient storytellers. Now, whether that is doing it in front of a lot of people in an amphitheater, or just telling a verbal story, or in our current days, telling it through acting in either live action, voiceover, even in our literature, the point still stands. These people exist for a reason, to tell a story in whatever medium is available at the time, and create new mediums to help people further advance. In everything,
the celestial events, right? The turning of day and night, of the tides, of the seasons, and kind of giving people a toolbox of metaphors and tales in order to understand certain wonders, also of physics, of nature. And here we have the first age of the gods, and today we want to talk about shifting more a bit forward into a bit more contemporary ages, with a mythological story about a hero that, of course, is also in our subconscious, like installed. Everybody knows Hercules, right? Hercules is one of those prototypes. I mean, one of those hero, blueprints, you could say. But the interesting thing about Hercules is that what's most incredible about him, it's his suffering. It's the amount of pain and agony he had to went through, right?
he did. It's crazy incredible with him. No, yeah, and you know what? I'll say this. It doesn't matter, where you're watching us from. It doesn't matter if it's Facebook, Instagram, or here on YouTube, or wherever other social media platform Coach is streaming us from. But all I'm going to say is you can learn an essential lesson from Hercules, because he is full of like moral tales. Regardless, he is magnificent but flawed at the same time. It's quite the paradox, which is what ancient Greeks really loved. The concept of the paradox.
And I think in what you're just saying right there is probably the biggest magic, and also the biggest takeaway for, let's say, for the own purpose of creating art, of sometimes hitting a boulder, a creative drought, or like a dry period where it's really hard to kind of get your shit together and produce videos, or write something compelling, or kind of learn a new monologue, right? We all have those moments where it's not really where you're not at your best. And think about this. It's always that period, right, that serves you the best, when you are at a certain point breaking through then and understanding what the problem was. And all of a sudden, what you went through, what you would, initially maybe call suffering, later on becomes the fuel of your operations. And is actually pushing you forward, because this is the stuff where you learned the most from. So the 12 labors of Hercules stand for that concept that, hey, you can even be the biggest guy in the game, right? He was, of course, a son of Zeus, right? He's the king of the gods. And Zeus wanted him also to be the next king of Greece, of course. But he was not Hera's son, wasn't he?
No. And,
of course.
This is where the story gets interesting. Right. It's always the same story with all these amazing
What's his problem
demigods.
with Zeus, man?
Yeah. No, bro, Zeus is a player, man. This guy
Yeah,
just
damn.
gets around no matter what. Like, and I mean, he's got some impressive children. I'll give you that, including Hercules here. He
Yeah,
got
yes.
his mother, like his mother, it was, if I'm correct, a queen. I don't remember like the full details, but she was a queen of one of the city states at the
It
time,
was
right?
she was the grandchild of
Okay, yeah,
Perseus, of the
yeah.
last
There we go.
hero of
He's
antiquity,
descended from
like
he's descended
the
from Perseus'
Medusa
line, which is
Slayer. I
yeah,
mean, right? And
yeah.
I think
That's
it was.
right.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was Thebes, but it was one of those bigger city states.
I
She was.
believe so. Yeah, it was one of those. Oh man, if I wish I could remember off the
Oh,
top of my
and
head,
Thebes
but
was Hercules'
these
wife was from.
Hercules' wives, yeah. But no, I always found it fascinating, like just his origin story overall. Like we're talking this dude, like his
Mhm.
dude's mom. Yeah, we had some fun time.
So the
Then this
problem
baby
here
came out. Yeah,
for
yeah.
for the people who are not informed. So what
Uh-huh.
happened was this: in the first age, right? Zeus became pretty, entrenched with, let's say, other women, mistresses, affairs, all sorts of other operations, and actually half of the, of the Olympians, they are from, the half occupants of the pantheon of the Greek pantheon are actually occupied by children of Zeus that were not, offsprings of his legal marriage with Hera over here, right? And over time,
Mhm.
of course, she became pretty jealous and pissed about the situation that he, kind of had, like, the with Metis, with
Yeah,
Io, with Leto, how many affairs, right? And so
a
she was
lot.
a lot. So Queen
Yeah.
Hera was obviously not pleased about that. Oh, let me put that also in here so people can see who we're talking about. This lady here was pretty pissed about the fact that when she only
You even
contributed
drew her
two,
pissed.
right. I did.
Did you drew her like really pissed off? Like she's giving the side eye and everything.
So from 12 Olympians, absolutely, she just attributed two. Actually, only two were her kids with Zeus. It was Ares and Hephaestus,
Yeah,
right? Who then
yeah.
went to Mount Etna. So all the other, were sons of his other wives, and so of course she was getting more and more, really like mad at the situation. And so when Zeus again, after all they went through in the first age, when he again, right, dared to, bear another child with Alcmena, Hera was so infuriated by him, she said, you know what? Let's do it this way. Promise, swear an oath that the next king of Greece must be an offspring of Perseus. So the first
Mhm.
offspring of Perseus should get the kingsmanship over the whole of Greece. And Zeus said, oh, yeah, that's brilliant, right? Because Alcmena, she was a grandchild of Perseus, so everything would be all right. If she would, be, fallen into pregnancy, no problem. So what Hera did, she slowed down the birth of Alcmena artificially.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so Aristeus came out a couple of seconds, actually, I think just 1 second before. And so he
Yeah,
became the actual
it's crazy
legitimate heir to
because
the
the
throne.
way she does it, like the way they describe it, is she basically kidnaps the goddess of birth and holds her hostage for
Right.
multiple days and forces her to delay the birth. And then Zeus is like, okay, enough of that. You won your bet. Okay, the cousin gets to be the king.
It is what it is. And let us know also on Facebook, on Instagram. People are watching right now. Thanks so much, also Lisa, for jumping in CLS Studio. Shout out to CLS Studio for sure as well. Yeah, I love the Greek mythology. Who smoked what? Well, that's probably Dragon Slayer commentaries. I'm looking for the Hercules musical. If there's a prize for Rotten Judgment,
That would be a great musical. I can already see it becoming a hit.
For sure.
Oh, goodness.
Because it's Rotten Judgment, but it didn't start well. I mean, we have to kind of, cut him some slack here. I mean, Hera was doing everything she could, right? So Aristeus, Hercules' cousin, became the next king of Greece, and Zeus was of course, not amused about this. And so what he did, he sneaked in and went into Mount Olympus. He sneaked back one night after Hercules was born,
I
and
remember
he
that
gave Hercules. He
bro.
breastfed Hercules from Hero, but she was sleeping. Right? She wasn't
That's
aware.
so sneaky, dude. That is sneaky. He's like, here, have some breast milk.
I can imagine the king of gods, right? What the mightiest, the one who slew Saturn, Kronos, right? We're talking about like the Titan Slayer, kind of sneaks in with this little Hercules baby, try to get breastfed because he knew once he would get some milk from Hera, he would be immortal, invincible, right? That's the holy milk, right? Only problem was she woke up, and
He was
again,
real mad.
he was really mad. Here she is.
Yeah.
Really mad.
Didn't her breast milk like just spray all over the place and create something out of thin
Created
air?
the Milky Way. Yes.
Oh yeah, the Milky Way.
Yes. So she ripped off Hercules from her breast, and the milk that sprayed, like her breast milk that sprayed. Not really. This is the story of Greek mythology. Kind of created the constellations.
wow.
And this is the Milky Way now.
Well, there we go. Now we know it all came from breast milk, folks.
It's incredible. It's right there. So this is how basically, this was the situation at his birth. What happened then he grew up, and he was known to be very aggressive, very stern-minded, right? Very, very heavy-minded. It was really hard to shout out also to Vinsinger, the AKA El
Otaku, the wheat pillar. I love that dude. That is such an intricate title.
I like that too.
Oh man, love that dude. Hey, welcome, man.
Welcome.
We're gonna have a fun time, dude.
Any Ertz is also not bad. Ertz is also welcome to the stream. Nice. We definitely have a great time. We already started having a great time. And the interesting thing is, Hercules grew up with this condition, right, to be overwatched by Hera, and by that he couldn't be the next great king of Greece as well, and so he developed this very aggressive demeanor in his childhood and his puberty, and it became very, very hard to teach and to come by. And one day, his music teacher kind of tried to show him some moves, and he got so infuriated with himself, Hercules, that he was trying to teach him something that he couldn't learn because he wasn't actually that good with playing instruments. He was a great archer, a great bowman, but not that great of a musician. And so he killed his music instructor.
That's a little bit too much, bro. Like, come on. That's
man.
That's like somebody killing Elton John because you're not good at the piano. I mean, come on. Come on. It's not fair.
It's not fair. It's like, okay, I understand. You got some issues, Eddie's issues. You're not the big king, whatever.
Take them out on the music teacher. Why is it always the music teacher, man? Everybody takes it out on the music teacher.
Fair. I mean, what it's like, what is it? Because maybe they think they are more fragile than others. Yeah, music teachers don't work out maybe a lot. So yeah, he killed him. And he wasn't even, punished by Zeus for doing that. Like, there was no really punishment. Even there's, I think, a big instruction, That was his first big crime, and he wasn't punished. So probably a good punishment in that moment would have helped to kind of, correct the course. But
and it was a big deal because, like, in ancient Greek society, in ancient Greek society, murder was very looked down upon. But there was another type of murder that we're gonna get to very shortly. That one was considered to be more of a unforgivable sin that you needed to redeem from. Which I find it funny because it's like, oh yeah, we don't care if you bash your music teacher to death, but if you do this, oh, you're bad.
You're really bad. Killing music teachers, not so bad.
Yeah. Hey, walk in the park.
No, but what happened afterwards was that one day, with his wife Diomedes, Megara was his wife of Hercules, and they had 3 kids. Living in Thebes, and what happened is that Hera one day manipulated Zeus and Hercules into believing when he was coming home that his family was, she transformed the family in like wild animals and beasts. So when Hercules came home, he thought his home was invaded by beasts and wild animals. So he killed all of them, of course. But in reality, uh, it was his family, right? So he realized that he slaughtered his own family, which, like Dragon Slayer commentaries was saying, was considered in Greece like one mortal crime. So first of all, he had to exile. And back then, the exile ritual, the scapegoat ritual to exile you from your city state, that was considered a death penalty. Like when
Mhm.
people sometimes read about death penalties in ancient Greece, they're like, oh yeah, they even kill people. The killing was intended that they couldn't return to their territory. For them, that was the spiritual killing of those people because they believed so
Mhm.
much, where they're coming from. So not necessarily was that intended to be like a physical action. It was more like exiling them and never letting them, come back. So first
Yep.
of all, he had to exile, and then of course he had to atone for his crimes, right?
Mhm.
So what
Yeah.
did he do?
Well, I do want to mention one
Sure.
thing before we get into it, just to give some context to all of you watching. The reason why Coach mentions the fact that exile was considered to be something worse than death is because you have to understand this is the time period of ancient Greece, and supposedly the time period where Hercules existed was supposed to be even further back in antiquity.
Mhm.
And so, in both perspectives, there is this idea that outside of the safe city state, there is nothing out there. It's just
Mm.
wilderness, danger all around. You can't barely survive down there, except if you're some bloody barbarian out there that's trying to destroy and take everything. And so the idea was is that if somebody got exiled, they weren't going to live there for long unless they got really lucky because there were bandits all over the road. There were wild animals. Weather could go from bad to worse. And
Absolutely.
so that's why exile was considered to be something very bad. And on top of that, the news did spread around. Now, of course, I'm not saying like everybody all around the block knew what was happening, but the higher in status you were, the more obvious it spread throughout the land. But
Oh,
even then, people would look at you with a side eye, knowing that hey, this guy got exiled. So,
I mean, you have to think about like 1 second before we go on with the nitty gritty of Hercules and coming to the actual labors, right? And why they are so instructive and why they are so interesting, also to kind of analyze a bit, because I think like everything these Greek mythologies, especially the Greek mythology, has. I don't know how, but to me, it always hits me like I read about them, and it's almost like they are happening on a border where you feel like somehow they could really happen, somehow they could be real, and like they are like not just events that are mere fiction, even though we're talking about also interpreting celestial events and kind of trying to find a translation for natural occurrences, right? Like a catastrophe, right? So you describe it as a typhoon dragon. I get that you get a translation for something that happens that is cataclysmic or that has a seasonal change with it, and so people would remember it. But I like with Greek mythology, I always get the feeling that it feels very, very physical, almost like doable, what they describe or how they behave,
mhm.
also in their human demeanor. And so therefore their stories to me resonate on multiple levels. That's why I can get so much out of it for my own endeavors and my own reflections on my art, on how I develop a strategy, on how I want to tackle my content and all that. It's like, all right, what kind of art do I want to insert here? Is it more Artemis or is it more proud like Apollo? Is it more right? I can relate to those concepts. I don't know how you feel about it.
No, I mean I can relate it in quite a couple of ways with a lot of these characters. Like I do the same thing that you do, which I try to get to the nitty gritty of what is the meaning behind the story. There,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, sure, it's an interesting story to tell. It could have been real, it could have been complete fiction, but the point is, what
Yeah.
are they trying to teach you here? And
And
that is like if we're gonna go with Hercules, at least is humility goes a long way, and a lot of pride can lead to very bad consequences and a very rough life. That's the and and at the same time, your choices have a lot of meaning to them. Like they aren't just little things that you make throughout your day. No, each choice has a consequence, whether positive or negative. That's
Yes,
yours to determine.
absolutely. You know, the funny thing is, Hero had finally achieved, right, what she actually wanted. Like
Mhm.
from the legitimate next big king of Greece, she managed to exile him, right, and to kind of trick him into believing that his family would be beasts. So he killed his own family. He had fallen from grace. He needed to be exiled from Thebes, so he had to move away with his family. And so basically she had managed to destroy his life. So in order to reinstall him, Hercules had to atone for his crimes. He had to purify his soul. He had to kind of come clean. So he went to the Oracle of Delphi on Mount Parnassus and asked Pythia. She is the priestess of Delphi. And she would, back then, again, this is not fiction. Um, it is written in many, many accounts that big
Yeah.
statesmen like kings, counselors of regions, very important and powerful people, but also regular folks, farmers, commerce, merchants would go regularly to the oracle and ask the oracle until in recent times, what to do, how to kind of, interpret the signs of nature and of time. So the Oracle of Delphi was a powerful installation there, and it was required by the people. They found it was like something that they needed to do, to consult it regularly, right?
Yeah, no, she was if we could use a modern term for the Oracle Delphi, it would be like the most desired or the most efficient information broker of the time, because everyone went
Mm-mm-mm.
there to get information, whether about themselves, their kingdom, or just how to solve a situation. Everyone will go to this oracle for help. And whether the methods used to acquire that, yes, I know. Let's be a little bit real here. Yes, the places where these temples were located have high amounts
Yes,
of
of
sulfur
evaporated
because of
sulfur.
volcanic pits. Yeah, and as a result, yeah, if you breathe the fumes in certain
No, we
chambers
know
of
that
these places,
drug consumption was a part of the
yeah,
ritualistic,
exactly,
absolutely, back in
it was common.
antiquities. Not only in Greece, pretty much everywhere, all over the place.
Hmm.
Mushrooms, herbs, plants, teas, beverages of all kinds of, deriving from hallucinogenal, substances for sure. I mean, they believed that she could see and she could hear, right? And therefore even the mightiest of all the warriors, Hercules. Let's not forget that Hercules, for a while, right, kind of did Atlas's job. So he was one of the mightiest and
Hmm.
strongest, demigods. How do we want to call him? Like,
He was no, you're right. He is considered a demigod in like the whole. If we're gonna go with the hierarchy, he would be considered the strongest, like the most physically
mhm.
strong of all the demigods. But if we're gonna go like who was the bravest or most intelligent, it would be Achilles. But there in that time period, there was always like
He
that
was the
idea of, oh yeah, who is better, Achilles or Hercules? It's like with
this
people with
is
their favorite football teams.
right,
Yeah, it's the
right.
same thing.
But
So
I'm not sure Achilles could really hold this guy like
no, he
Hercules.
was just very smart. He was just
He was
very
impenetrable,
tactically. Yeah, he
Just
was tactically sound and he was
mhm.
invulnerable and courageous. Like the guy feared nothing. So
The-
that
But
I
the
think is what
thing,
sets them apart. Hercules is more. I would say with Hercules, the stories bring him down to a more human level. Unlike Achilles, he is obviously stronger than Achilles, but unlike him, they portray his humanity constantly. Yes, he is half god, but
yes,
he's mostly human. Like he has to endure the perils of the world as much as any other man. All the
and
issues he has are
right.
are because of the world that he lives in and his the unfortunate circumstances of his birth. I mean, for Christ's sakes, this guy lost everything. Yeah,
it's incredible.
yeah,
And
and
I
then he
think,
went for help. That's all what
but
you do.
isn't
You go for help.
and what do? You assess the situation,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You need information. You need some guidance. So even the mightiest warrior, when he's falling down or when he needs to plan his next move, he needs to assess the situation. You just can't run into the next action. At a certain point, you need to come down and see, okay, I need some mentorship here. I need some guidance here. But the thing was that, he did this also because he believed that the oracle, of course, would be immaculate, and what she usually was, like, not immaculate in terms of not everything really made sense what she was saying. Sometimes the things were dislocated and somehow they would make sense later. Sometimes the analogies were a bit complicated to understand. That was always the case. But usually you could rely on the oracle, or even Hercules did, because the oracle is honest, right? It is just a conduit of information. So the oracle itself, Pythia, doesn't really care what she says, right? She doesn't take like any personal advantage or disadvantage of sharing the information that she gets, because there was like this three-legged throne, and there was this pit where the sulfur gas was coming out for, and her throne and her mission was to sit on top of that throne, so she would kind of like Dragon Slayer was explaining, kind of inhaling that gas, right? So she was just in that trance type of state. But Hera, again, right, influenced and manipulated her thoughts. So the oracle told Hercules at this point, when he, you wanted to come clean and atone for his crime, then asked the oracle for guidance. So the oracle, because of Hera's manipulation, at a certain point, told Hercules to go to King Aristeus of Mycenae and serve him for 10 years. That's the same king that was now the king of Greece instead of him, because he was born a second before him, because, again, of Hera kind of slowing down the birth of Hercules. So again, her intervention was direct, right, and very harsh and very severe. And because of that, Hercules, of course, accepted, because he believed that the oracle was of pure judgment and not influenced by any other force, just giving and seeing, just telling.
Well, Apollo, but I mean, Apollo was neutral anyway.
So. Anyway, exactly.
Yeah, so that was the best part. Apollo was just like, "Oh, you want a bison? Okay, yeah, please get high. Okay, you'll get your info soon." And that's what I love about this.
This is incredible. And so the incredible thing was that Hercules accepted this. This was a very, like, no problem. All right, let's go to him. That's like the ultimate humiliation. Of course, I have to serve the one king, my cousin, that is now king instead of me, because of a second where Hera intervened. And now the whole labor thing of Hercules actually starts, because he goes to the king. He, asks him for getting accepted as his court, and if he would be so gracious to tell him the things that he needed him to do for the next 10 years. And Eurystheus came up with the 10. Initially there were 10 labors, 10 missions that he would give Hercules in order to atone for his crimes, in order to purify his soul, and having the ability to getting reinstated and going back to Mount Olympus and to return home, basically, like always in the hero's journey. Hercules is the perfect example. And let us just for a second, in Greek mythology, not even numbers, anything like that. In the old mythologies, in all ancient scriptures, numbers are, very potent and very telling and very important. They're not just randomly distributed there. It's not like today when Disney writes a script, right? It's like, all right, let's whatever. Doesn't make sense anymore. It's like, all right, just a number, whatever.
Echo was a good show. 5 hours.
Like,
yeah, that's what I love about
sometimes
it.
Right? They always don't make even sense. And hey, by the way, I'm not really good at this, but the guest that we have tonight on the show, Dragon Slayer Commentaries, also to the people on Facebook and Instagram, he's a master in destroying, slashing, and absolutely annihilating bad content. So by all means, watch his funny edit videos that are completely ludicrous. He's incredibly also gifted with impersonating other people, imitating voices. He's almost like a voice actor. I'm telling you, dude, you should also make money with this. So go over to Dragon Slayer commentaries. There's big entertainment guaranteed. And yeah, he does.
I
you know,
mean, I
he does
haven't
God's
done an
stuff.
impression in a while, but I mean, haven't
Please,
done. Oh, I mean, okay. What is it? Oh goodness.
maybe we
Oh
do.
man. Okay. And now we're going to talk about Greek mythology. Oh yeah.
Nice.
And if you don't like that, I can talk to you in this way. It might sound a little bit weird. Kind of sexy. Okay, no, that might have turned a little bit racist. My bad.
No, it's all good. It's all good. And
I
if
may have
you
gone to Chinese out of nowhere.
no man, I love how
Oh,
you can
goodness.
spin your voice. It's great. And it's always also fun to kind of listen to your endless funny monologues on Saturday Night Hypnosis, like every Saturday 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we also make this we make this important trade where we trade in our time, our liberty to finally express all of our frustrations, and also like to get together and have some great discussions and real cool conversations. So join us there as well every Saturday on Hypnotics channel, where we are the OG members, man. We're one of the
Yeah,
we're part
the
of the OG.
OGs are alive somehow. The OGs have been going on for a long time, and
Oh,
yes, y'all better join this guy's channel too. He makes amazing videos that can actually help you as an actor improve. And I could say that he is legit because I've seen him in one of those short films I did for a festival ages ago, and I can say
Oh, nice.
he can play the role of a Nazi super well. No, I'm just
Oh man,
but no, he's amazing. Like really, he's been in.
thank you,
If
man.
you want some good schooling, this man can teach you because he's been in this industry for a very long time. And I can assure you, he will help you get to where you need to. Okay, and at the same time, give you some good wisdom. Because trust me, these days I don't think you get a lot of coaches that are, hey, how's it
Hey,
going, Billy?
awesome.
Good to see you, bro.
Good to see
Yeah.
you, man.
Hey, look, I'm telling you, if you want the real deal, if you want to become a legit actor that someone will hire, go to him. He'll make you into one.
Or if you want to check us out, also this Saturday, at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the next free masterclass. It's completely for free. You just go to the link in the description or Linktree on my Instagram, or you can find me on Eventbrite also directly if you want. You can just just go there and you can find the description and everything you need there, and just register. We're gonna have 2 hours of very cool free masterclass about acting, about the audition. It's actually volume 2. So we have in the first masterclass we had last month, we talked about like more fundamental stuff, like getting into the room, really accepting the presence, dealing with the chair, the window, the door, and all these more basic concepts that are truly powerful. But in this one, we're going to talk about more the audition itself, like how do you kind of roll out the stuff, right? It's good to have, of course, knowing what you're doing and the environment, perceiving all that, but it's also great, of course, like a couple of tips and tricks on how to kind of handle that. So jump over to the masterclass. It's gonna be always like an interesting gathering. And afterwards, we have a final Q&A, 30 minutes where you can ask all types of questions. Where we also network a little bit. So definitely, it's a good occasion to smarten up a little bit and also to connect.
Yeah.
And thank you, man.
Bad. Sorry, I cough in there.
It's so good, man.
Yeah.
So what we have now are the famous labors of Hercules that King Aristeus, right? Aristeus asked from Hercules. And of course, now we could go into all the, and we will, and some of them for sure, because they are super interesting and also funny and entertaining to talk about and everything. But what's more important is that every labor that he needs to complete, right? Everything that he needs to do is sort of it's a metaphor, right? So it's more like giving you some sort of a hero's journey blueprint. I feel Homer, what he's doing here with the labors of Hercules, is giving you. And I mean, there is no coincidence, Dragon Slayers. You know it. As the numbers,
Yeah.
12
Hmm.
labors. What does it mean? Probably 12 months, probably 12
Hmm.
hours, probably 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night, right? He's giving you already like very interesting mathematical concepts. And every task in itself, every labor kind of represents a special challenge of a certain hour, of a certain aspect of the year, of a certain attitude that you should get. Why do you think we have 12 disciples, right? Why do you think we have 12 gods in the Olympus? It's always like this reoccurring number. So there is something majestic and something important about the number 12, and how kind of it directs our, like a Polaris, our moral
Hmm.
value and our focus.
Yeah, it's oh Lord, no, I'm gonna go too deep on this, but yeah,
Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
man.
no, because like, oh goodness, yeah, 3 plus 4 is 7, obviously, but 3 plus 4 is 7. There is like this concept of like seven, 7 divine stages, if you will, to
Mm-hmm.
to the pinnacle of spirituality, and then there are some where those are divided into 4 stages of 3. So it
Absolutely.
turns out to be 12. One
Absolutely.
is physical awareness, individual awareness, spiritual awareness, and then awareness of the entire universe around you. And so it
Also,
makes sense why Hercules goes through this journey, because each labor, if you follow it step by step, you can see he is slowly becoming more attuned with the world around him, and he meets individuals that give him a further perspective, and he grows as a person. But he has to go through a lot of rough phases, let's put it
uh,
that way.
right, Eurystheus is his cousin, who is, of course, he can't control his happiness, like, right, he has like this once in a lifetime opportunity to humiliate badly the greatest hero and one of the most fearsome like demigods of his time, right, out of his little throne. So he asks him like, okay, so I want you to go out, right? And please, I mean, kill the Nemean lion without using any type of weapon, right? And the Nemean lion, he was known for having an impenetrable skin and absolutely like his teeth and his razor sharp claws that would rip everything apart. There is no armor, no shield that can defend you from his attacks. And it was like a feared, like a beast, right? And and so Hercules says, right, let's go. Let's do that. And it's very interesting that the first thing that he does of his 10, aka 12 labors, it is that he needs to kill the lion. Because the lion, of course, is a symbol for what?
Strength and courage, and also sometimes, well, no, bull was used for vitality, but yeah, it
Mm,
was mostly, I guess, well, the proper terminology would be strength and valor. That would be the
yes,
proper
valor.
terminology for the lion,
You
and
could
in endurance.
you could also say the lion, of course, is the representative of the sun, right? It's in a way
Oh
also
yeah,
the dominance, the determination of giving us life, and of course it's the Lion King. It's Augustus, right? That's the imperial glory, kind of at the 8 months. And 8 also as a number is a very interesting concept, right? August
yeah.
is because it's the
Hmm.
somehow also related to the bad concept again, of course,
Hmm.
because after day you have the night, so you need to kill the lion first. So
And the
face.
lions,
Mhm.
well, I do want to mention something in ancient Greek times, and this was
Right.
also common in a lot of ancient cultures around this time period. But you have to understand, in in that time period, lions were seen as some of the strongest creatures on Earth, and we also must understand that lions used to roam around wider parts of the world thousands of years ago. Okay, and so as a result, there's no surprise that these stories contain lions, because people feared, walking around the meadow one day, and then,
Yes,
little Timmy the lion would just eat them all up, and they didn't want that to happen. So,
I like
making the
that
lion with
person.
the, yeah. Yeah, making a lion with impenetrable skin is basically like somebody putting the Grim Reaper with impenetrable armor.
Right.
You know. So, or no, I got a better one. No. Oh, what was it? Ah, yes. Basically, putting the Lemurian lion and making it impenetrable would be the equivalent of us finding a really terrible show like Velma and being unable to talk bad about it because we would go to jail for it. That's basically that's a bit of an equivalent, no?
That's super rough, man. That's an
But I mean,
equivalent.
think about it. That's how they consider it. That dangerous.
It would, my brain would explode. I mean, it was so necessary. Like, and that was one of the funniest episodes we also had. We had a blast. We had
No, it
some
was
great
great.
summer nights on SNH.
Oh,
Follow
man.
us there, guys, as well. I
Yes,
mean, we're
dude.
very nerdy and geeky over there, and a bit more. It's the end of the week, right? So we take our time out from and being completely objective and always political correct, right? We would take a wide leap into the arrays of being completely, no holds barred. Over here today, we love to kind of give you something to share some cool instructions and some interesting ideas that might help you to kind of perform better, to create better, or just to have kind of cultivate a passion that could be important to your life. So a bit more instructional, as much as we can also entertain you, with funny voices and interesting stories. But on Saturday we go wild.
No, yeah. Saturday there is no filter. Like, if you ever wondered what would happen if a bunch of psychotic chimpanzees got a hold of a chat room, that's us.
That's
I'm
us.
telling you. But the
Welcome.
thing is, it's like a car crash. You cannot avoid watching what's happening, and
Exactly.
you just can't.
You
But
just said it's true.
it's in a good way because we just go at it. We just
Yeah,
love what we do.
we just
So
love unpacking it,
yeah,
guys. Also on Facebook and Instagram, watching us right now. If you have nothing to do on a Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, stop by. Stop by. We're gonna drop the links anyway, so you can follow us
that's
always.
true. Yeah.
But let's
But dude,
come to the impossible teachings of Hercules, because basically the 10 labors. Let's be honest. The 10 labors he asked for. Eurystheus asked for something that couldn't be achieved in the first place,
mhm.
right? So that's very interesting. Like, he really wanted to completely destroy his enemy. So whenever you are facing someone, right, that completely wants to annihilate you and kind of imposes a big threat, a big danger to your life or to your, business, to your profession, whatever, that probably is the case because you're valid, right? So because you have something to offer, because he perceives you as a threat, not necessarily you. So Eurystheus was what he wanted to make sure that there was no way that Hercules could pull this off, right? So he sent him to rip off the lion, who was the king of the jungle, who was like you said, back then in antiquities, the lion was absolutely considered the strongest and the mightiest of all the animals. Even in my time when I grew up, for us now it's changed, but back then the lion in the 80s was still considered to be the strongest thing out there. And interesting is also, maybe this is just happening to me when I looked at it, like, what he did was, he broke the lion's neck. He eventually, like, he saw that this lion was really mighty. Hercules kind of saw that this was really like a mighty beast, right? Even for him being a demigod. So he trained pretty much for a year, like Rocky in Rocky 4, right? In nature, throwing boulders and rocks around, ripping off, out trees, and kind of climbing mountains. That's what he did. Like, he buffed up. Hercules trained to have even more muscle. That's how impressed he was by kind of observing this Nemean lion. So that was definitely a very valuable opponent. We're not just talking about a small lion here.
Oh yeah, no, this is like a very, supposedly this lion was unusually large. So, this guy being already quite physically strong, he realized, like, well, I can't exactly just pierce this thing because its
Yeah.
hide it's impenetrable. So what is the only solution to this? Well, you go
Dun,
back to
dun,
the caveman
dun, dun, dun,
methods.
dun,
You
dun,
get
dun,
super
dun.
strong, and then yeah, just grab that. Sorry for the phrasing, but just grab that mofo by the neck and snap it, boy. That's how
Snap
you
it,
get
boy.
your lion.
So after
Really?
1 year of Rocky-like training,
Yep.
Hercules came back, and
Sorry, that caught
no, that's
me.
good.
Oh man.
And yeah, he wrestled. It is said by Homer, wrestled for hours with the beast. He finally kind of got a hold of the beast, and he wrestled this beast down for hours. The mightiest warrior of its time.
I love
And when
Homer, bro. He really like makes
Homer
it. He likes to over embellish so much.
Wow,
He's just like,
absolutely.
and they wrestled for 7 hours, bro. I saw it happening. Okay, I never got torn to shreds in this fight. It's probably like 2 minutes.
It's like 2 minutes. Nobody completely. I also thought about this. Like Homer was sometimes
Yeah.
exaggerating, probably as well. But finally, he got a hold
yeah,
of him, and he broke his neck.
yeah.
And he thought, if this skin usually is impenetrable, you know what I should do? I should skin this animal, right? And kind of take what's most precious about it off it, and kind of use it as my shield, as my protection as well, and
Mhm.
kind of use
You
the
know, I just realized something. When you said that, and I never thought of this until now. Okay, so there's like this is maybe nitpicky, everyone, but it's necessary. How is it that this man thinks, oh, I'm just going to put the pelt on my head and that'll be it. It'll protect me. Why didn't he just have somebody make a piece of armor out of it? See, this is what I've
Yeah.
always wondered. Why did they not clarify this? I'm acting like George Martin with how he complains about Lord of the Rings, but no,
Right.
this is essential. Like he just wore it, so why not make the extra detail? Oh, they made a set of armor out of it. They said they did it with Achilles. Why not him? Yeah, aphrodisiac at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, nah,
That's
bro. I swear.
weird. That's
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah, it's
That's a tiny detail they kind of just left out,
But would they really leave something out like that? I'm not sure. Is it?
Like,
I think that
was it
there's
just a
something
head?
else. No,
I don't know.
no, he
weird.
was no. I would. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm looking because I did
Yeah.
a drawing about like
Mhm.
how he looked after that fight with the lion, because that drawing.
Yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
no, because after that fight, he wore this lion skin, and that I found very interesting. He broke an oak tree that was there,
Mhm.
and that oak tree, that club, became his mighty weapon. Now the thing is this: in the discussion of Plato, where he talks about Atlantis, right? He mentions that Cylon went to the Pharaoh, to Egypt. And the Pharaoh tells Cylon, is like, yeah, you Greeks, you think you are ancient. You think you are old. You are nothing compared to the Ogias, to the Ogias, to the
Mhm.
Western people. They are far
Mhm.
older than you guys. They lived when Atlantis was still there. This is how we got the Atlantis reference in the first place from Plato, actually, when he was talking about it through the discussions of Cylon. So the interesting thing here is that he talks about the Ogias, these Western people who would be the descendants of the oak tree people. And the people that are
Ooh.
meant here are the Druids, because they were always recognized to be the oak tree people. Actually, in Sanskrit, druid, the root means
Mhm.
oak. It's the
Yeah.
oak tree. And of course, the mistletoe and the sickle and the Druids, that's their cult. So the oak tree that Hercules was
Yeah.
using maybe is a
And
metaphor.
Hercules used no, and if I'm correct, didn't Hercules use a sickle to cut off the heads of some
Sure,
of the
always.
beasts that he hunted?
I think there was, you know,
Yeah, the Hydra and the boar, I think. That's one of the two I remember off the top of my head. But I find it very fascinating how how there's like all these references. Yes, this is amazing. Anyone who's watching right now, just look at this amazing drawing. You said you spent 5 hours doing this, right?
No. This now
Or this
was
took days?
way more. This is like already like over
Mhm.
10 hours, I think that and it's still not finished. I have to admit, I'm sorry, creative community. I didn't make it in time. I had to also complete the other doodles, the other sketches, because I had this already because I once did a little thing about Hercules, but this was so small we couldn't really use that. I really wanted to do a real new drawing for it, and so this is the new one. This is the second labor. Actually, we're getting to that in a second.
Mhm.
But this is just
Yes.
to represent how we looked after the first fight with the lion, pretty much.
Is that that's a leather. Okay, that's a leather strap. Okay, that's he got
That's
across. Oh, yeah, the leather strap holding the entire cloak.
right.
And yeah, okay, I
Here
see.
you
Yeah.
got
That's actually a pretty good take when you put that's a pretty good depiction of Hercules with the lion skin. It's actually pretty close to the ancient vases or vases, I guess. I don't know how you
the
pronounce them.
vases, vases,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So they're very close actually. So I do like the little serpent drawing of the
Yeah,
Hydra.
yeah,
Everyone describes it as this big scary monster, but no, it's just an annoying little pest that grows
it
heads
is,
back.
it is.
I do like how
And
you just drew it to be like an annoying pest to him.
yeah,
That's
to him,
but just
like
which is true,
it
Yeah.
is, right? To
Yeah.
him, like
How
almost
did you
all
do this? Like he actually got it on the money because in the story, yeah, since we're getting to it anyway.
sure, no, tell it,
So
it'll work.
yeah, so
The second
Eurystheus,
labor is about,
yeah,
getting rid of the Hydra of
exactly, yeah,
The
uh-huh,
Lernean Hydra, and there was
mhm,
Lake Lerna, and she was
mhm.
living there. The Hydra was living there.
Yeah, and so Hercules was tasked with. I'm glad you think so, bro, because
Yeah.
it's only Tuesday. We wish it was Saturday. Not
We
there
wish
yet, but close. But
close.
I do want to say something that fascinates me about the Hydra. It's just how they describe it. So this foe is not like the Nemean lion. This one won't be beaten by mere brute strength. This
Mhm,
this one you need to actually think about it.
mhm.
And to be honest,
The
they
lion
make it
was
very
whistled down, and then he broke his
yeah,
neck. It was just
yeah,
endurance, commitment,
exactly.
endurance, not
Hmm.
giving up no matter what.
Yeah,
Just go through the dominance and be more determined than your opponent. Boom,
hmm,
wave him down. The Hydra
exactly.
is a sneaky, devious one.
Mhm. And this one, I have to say, when it comes to the labors, they do point out that the two labors he fails in are are
Yeah,
ones are ones that he gets assistance in
right. This is
because those
one
are
of
his
the
weaknesses.
right.
Like the way to describe his core weakness, and that is, at least in this one, is the fact that he Hercules, for all his strength, he's not the most witty of the ancient Greek heroes.
True.
Like, yeah, he
True.
thinks a little bit about it in the middle of a fight, but to him, the idea is, oh, okay, beat the crap out of whatever's in front of me and
Right.
it'll die by
Right.
sheer force of will, Which that doesn't work with something that can grow two heads if you cut off one, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, like you would think someone like him being a well-seasoned warrior and everything, that
True. Right. He
if he
was
saw the
taught by the
heads,
best
yeah,
teachers on Mount Olympus. That doesn't really
yeah,
speak also for
right?
his apprehension time of the knowledge. I
Uh-huh.
mean, he was taught
Yeah.
by the masters of the masters, and
Mhm.
nonetheless, he was just in the beginning always. But maybe that's also an allegory that Homer likes to kind of give us here. Like, don't you think because you have the biggest club and the biggest bicep that you can always run and just rush into battle and just
Yeah,
just be
exactly.
in just without any type of strategy and thinking that you might win all of those because you're the strongest guy, because not always the
Mm.
strongest wins.
Yeah, because this is you got to remember when Homer wrote these stories. Obviously, he was basing it off more ancient manuscripts, but at the same time,
Yes.
when he was doing his, you could say, updates or his own take on the stories.
Right.
He was implementing his own personal opinion of that certain point of the classical period where
Sure.
the
Because
thinking man, the one who was smart, was always considered or portrayed as super awesome. He can't be fooled with. And then like everybody else, like Hercules, who was more dim-witted or simple-minded, they always like degraded them down. So I wish we had the original manuscript just so I could see the differences.
we never do. That's the problem.
Because it's
And
such an old story. It's such an old story,
the crazy
and
thing is it's even older than 8
yeah,
BC, right? Because it
yeah.
tells about
Mhm.
like talking
I mean,
behind
this guy is basically Gilgamesh, but the
right.
Greek
This is
version.
Gilgamesh,
And Gilgamesh was actually very smart. Okay, he wasn't. He
true.
wasn't. He was prideful, but he wasn't stupid. Here,
True.
Hercules is.
So would you say
both
that the
prideful.
better it took him into time, the more he regressed character trait wise?
I feel like the story of Hercules, like at least in certain parts that we're mentioning,
Mhm.
this story came about way much later compared to the Mesopotamian ones. And so as a result, because of the regional differences and how later on this story came through, it may have been passed on orally, like a lot of the stories, and then
Yeah,
eventually
sure.
you
Like
had writers.
Crete for sure was like an important crossroad, right? To kind of crossbreed the mythological stories from Minor Asia, from the Near East with the Mediterranean basin stories, and kind of
course.
melt them together. And Alexandria, the city that was founded by the great conqueror, later kind of just accelerated this process because with the library, of course, the distribution of knowledge. But the thing that that's why sometimes Greek mythology fascinates me. So here's the thing. What is the most powerful invention? Actually, it's language, right? Being able to actually communicate. Where does language come from? If you think about it, it's the vowels that are making the language. And so what is Greek mythology telling us? That the vowels, they came in by Cadmus, who was the brother of Europa, that was looking for Europa because she was stolen by Zeus when he was dressing up in the Age of Gods like a white bull. But we couldn't cover that night because there was already 2.5 hours in show, and so maybe we should do another one about the first age. No,
we
but
should. Yeah, we should.
but there is an intersection about mythology and real-time occurrences because the vowels were truly brought in. This is a true story. They were added later. So is this really how they came in? Like by Cadmus, the prince who founded the city of Thebes in Greece and then opened up the academia and revolutionized speech and invented language as we know it today? Because as far as we can say, when it comes down to European languages that are written, our written accounts tell us that the Greek language is the oldest one that we have over there in Europe.
Yeah, no, and and just to like segue back to the story because I feel like we almost because we're trying. And yes, I was going to mention this, Brett. So yes, the Hercules, you're correct. He was more of if it bleeds, we can kill it. He's basically the Arnold archetype, and the story of the Hydra and the Nemean lion as well is basically just. I would say this was very subtle. Now that you mention it, Brett, the fight with the Hydra is slightly different because it talks about the constant. It's sort of like a story portrayal of mankind's constant struggle against nature and how it eventually came to dominate it, or at least take control of it, because man has one thing nature does not, a brain. And it shows with the fact that Hercules is portrayed as this big brute of a man, who's constantly fighting against nature, not trying to figure out how to overcome it. And then his cousin, who obviously is portrayed as the more intelligent one, because we got to remember his cousin wasn't a warrior. He was more of a poet, of a storyteller, which greatly pleased Homer and a lot of these classical writers because they obviously portrayed him really well. And, they used him as a way of saying, hey, this is when man stopped relying too much on violence and used their heads more, nature was conquered, because the cousin comes in and he says, I think his cousin, forgive me, I don't remember his name, is Iolaus.
Iolaus,
There we go. Yeah. So his cousin, uh, the man, his cousin just tells him, hey, if we put fire on its neck before it heals, it can't
Right.
grow back. And then afterwards, he finds out, oh, okay, we can just burn
Right.
it with fire, and that's how they did it. And, that's how the Hydra was defeated. And you got to give
They
Hercules
also
credit
fought
for.
hours. Ailes, of course, for jumping in because
Mhm.
and
And it's
what
a
he was.
poisonous creature.
Oh, and it's toxic. It's absolutely toxic. And if she bites you, I mean, it was the deadliest poison back then. It was is conquering for the first place of most dangerous poison with the blood of the Medusa. It was up there in
Mhm.
in Mount Olympus of the biggest threats to humanity. And so what Hercules did was actually pretty smart. After burning down the Hydra, so because she had one immortal head, she had 9 heads overall, the Lemurian Hydra, the Lermian Hydra, but one head of those 9 heads was immortal, and so they had to burn it down so it couldn't regrow. And what Hercules did, he was dipping his bow into the blood of the Hydra, similar to what Tethys did with her son Achilles, right? When
Mhm.
she was dipping Achilles into the river Styx, he was making sure that his skin would become impenetrable. And when he was dipping, his bow, his arrows into the blood, he would make sure that his arrows would kill any type of creature because it was the deadliest poison back then. The blood of the Hydra was considered the deadliest of all toxics out there.
Mhm.
Very interesting what that there is this fact that sometimes it's brute force, sometimes
Mhm.
you need a better strategy, sometimes there will be also an ally that shows up. You don't know sometimes if there's like an unexpected help. We have that in the hero's journey. um the 2 heads that grew back, no, that's exactly
Yeah.
the version, right?
Yeah, this is the version that we're talking about. This is the one where, yeah, 2 heads grow back in replacement of one. So that that's the one that we're talking about here. Yeah.
And interesting is that sometimes in the hero's journey there's always this assistant that comes out of the blue and that helps you out. And in real life we experience that too. Sometimes it's a bit more obfuscated, not as present and as clear as it sometimes happens
Mhm.
in movies or in books, but it also happens in real life that somebody will kind of chip in all of a sudden and help you out with something or just give you guidance or just sometimes the pieces that we need in order to succeed. They don't need to be extremely big all the time. Sometimes it can be the fickle things, the small things that we pick up along the way, quite subconsciously, that will kind of fit in perfectly into the whole mental clockwork. And when you're incubating about something, when you're thinking about like how to make something better, how to improve a skill, how to create a piece of content, sometimes just doing that process of letting it go and just letting your mind strive, and maybe you come back the next day and you will see that your brain kind of fixes the stuff automatically. It starts to putting in like improvements. So when you come back to material that you're working on and on, the exercise makes it better already.
Mhm. No, you're right. And that is, unfortunately for Hercules, Eurystheus said, "No, that doesn't count.
That
Your
doesn't
cousin
count.
helped you."
Your cousin help you. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. So now we
And there
went up to 11.
Right.
And
So
now
out of 10, we
Hercules
have
has 2 or 3.
11 labors, right?
Yep.
It's really incredible. And what happens next is just to give you an overview. So he first had to kill the lion, and then he had to kill the Hydra, and then he was sent out to capture the golden hind of Artemis, right? So here you had to be dominant and destroy the prominent force. So you always take out the first opponent that you take out should be always the biggest. So all the other opponents that will stay there will be very impressed because you took out the greatest player in the game. So that's like Sun Tzu. That's a very strategic move, actually, right? Take out the lion first, so everybody else will be intimidated by you, because everybody will talk about this feat, right? That you destroyed the one that seemed undestroyable. Remember, impenetrable skin. Nonetheless, he broke his neck. So everybody else will be fucking scared about the incoming Hercules.
I like that. Everybody will be fucking scared. No, you're right, because like it basically puts out the point that, you know, nothing is impenetrable. It's just gotta some things require different methods. You know, different problems require different solutions. And the hair of Artemis was interesting. He basically like, imagine if, you know, hey, look at this, the Gooch is on, bro.
Oh, what's up,
Oh, he's
Gooch?
in the chat, Gooch.
What's
How's it going, bro?
What's up? Diabolical Souls is in the house. Check out his channel, everybody, from Facebook and Instagram as well. Come over here. Also subscribe to these beautiful people's channels. Great individuals, great humans, great creators, great slashers of bad entertainment.
Yes. And, you know, if you want someone that will give you the real deal with comics,
oh, yes,
Gooch is it. And, you know, Gooch, you came in at the right time, because we were talking about Hercules. We're talking about Hercules' third labor, which is, in essence, Gooch, he was told. So get this, some background. Hercules kills the Hydra with the help of his cousin. Okay.
Iolaus, right?
Yeah, Iolaus, and then he comes back with, you know, proof that he did it, and his one of his cousin. Yeah, it's another cousin. These people have a lot of cousins.
I know. I think Iolaus is his nephew. I think he's
nephew. You're right, nephew. I am so sorry, everyone. You see, this is what happens when you have so much stuff in your head. You forget someone is a nephew. But yeah, Iolaus is actually his beloved nephew, and so he helped him kill the big ass snake known as the Hydra. Okay, in other words, and Eurystheus. Oh God, I sometimes pronounce it like that. He was not happy about this, because the conditions for beating, or considering that each trial was beaten, is that he had to do it by himself without the assistance of anyone, right? And so he got assistance. So he said, that don't count. Go at it again. And so we went from 10 to 11. And now we are at the capture of the Golden Hind, which basically Hercules here, you know, he turned into Usain Bolt, because this thing was fucking fast.
Really fucking fast.
And he had to catch this bastard. Like, he was avoiding him constantly, and eventually he caught this dude and just brought it in front of him. He's like, now you can't tell me I didn't do shit. And then he's like, oh, I'm gonna make it worse. And then he goes, oh yeah, go subdue this annoying boar, you know, giant boar. Yeah. And you know, they do talk about how he's.
Isn't this really interesting also? Like, here you have to destroy the dominant force. Here you have to come in with a sneaky strategy, with a sneaky plan. Here you have to be just fast and elegant. You have to be the fastest, right? And here you have to be, in a way, also the one that, you know, can endure the most. So already, like, the first 4 labors, because you talked about this 4 and 3 principle, and I think there's a lot of truth in that the first 4 things, like also the Chinese talk about this, you need 4 pillars to create justice, right? So the first 4 somehow are a blueprint for the successful man, right? What you need. You need dominance. You need sometimes sneaky strategies also, right? Not malicious per se. It's just sometimes you need to go out of your usual, you know, modus.
The word would be the word I think that you're looking for is guile. Would that be a good word to say?
No, that's a great
word. Guile sounds about right. Yeah, strength, guile, and quick thinking, I believe. I think that's what they're trying to do here, you know? Absolutely. And then, you know, at number 4 is use them all. Use it all.
Right, because the boar always Um, and we will maybe also have another open class doodle where we talk a little bit about also the ancients and the constellations, the precession of the equinoxes, how important they are and everything. But you have to understand these signs, right? They are also existing in the sky. After killing the Hydra, for example, because Hera was also interfering here for sure. She was creating this giant crab that was lurking in in Lake
I
Lerna.
forgot about this
Right,
crap.
yeah, we forgot because while he was fighting the Hydra that had 9
Yeah.
heads that were
The
growing
annoying
back,
little fucker.
right, and one immortal one, and her blood being the most poisonous thing, and no, that wasn't enough. We had to create a giant crab that was lurking in the lake, right, like in a little bit like in Middle Earth in Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. And so there was this giant crab also jumping out of the lake, and of course Hercules destroyed the crab as well. And Hera, thanking the crab for the sacrifice, right, of fighting against Hercules, she turned the crab into the constellation of Cancer. And the constellation of Cancer is very interesting because it gives us the representation of our of the tropical of when we are turning into summer. So Cancer is an interesting sign because it determines on the equator when we're going into a different season. And I don't believe all this stuff is somehow like just like a coincidence, right? I think the Greeks were inserting many Homer, whoever wrote this, right? Again, there is no 100% certainty of who this Homer guy was, if he really existed. The actual documents, they come out of Florence, and whenever I hear Florence and Vatican documents and just copies of older source material, right? There's always room.
Yeah.
There's always room for a
Was
lot
he
of
actually real? Because at least we can determine that Pythagoras was real. But
yes.
the further, because Pythagoras had followers in a cult,
Yeah,
and
we have
they preserved his principles.
Crotone really exists, and you can
Yeah.
principles really exist, and in the area
Mhm.
they really spoke Greek. And I'm
Mhm.
from Sicily, so we were part of the Magna Graecia type of empire where we had Greek ancestry also in Italy. That's all true. But pinpointing these actual witness accounts to specific persons in history is not as easy as sometimes people sell it on TV. Because if you think about that, you don't have an original document, and that everything serves a purpose, everything has an agenda, and we know that history is written by the victorious ones, and so they can rearrange history to their liking in order to install kind of legitimations of power, of authority over you, over another country. Like if I tell you, hey, I've been in your territory for thousands of years, here I can prove it, I have the documents, look at all these papers, then of course that gives you some sort of an authority, even though it's my country, even if it's my territory. We have the same thing happening somewhere in the States as well, where we never always pushed, and sometimes they are kind of declaring their land back, and then of course we respect that based on the document. So here we have sometimes documents that are, it's really hard to determine whether it's all original, but nonetheless we have these stories, and they are resonating with
They're
even more.
old
They are
stories.
old stories. You can tell that whether that's Gilgamesh or like even going further back into time, we're always talking about these primordial concepts coming back with a new cloak. Think of how Hercules was wearing the lion. Why do you guys think that he was wearing the lion skin? Because in the precession of the equinoxes, the sun was rising for 2,000 years into the constellation of Leo, which is the lion, which when it rises in the east, that's why you have the Sphinx. That was the preeminent, that was the empire existing before the Greek Empire, right? The great Egyptian Empire. So that was representative of the lion. Now a Greek guy was wearing Egypt, right, on its back, because now it was the time of the bull. That's why all over Greek mythology you have the mentioning of the bull, even in the Bible, right? When Moses was coming back from Mount Sinai after, having talked to God, and he sees that his people, the chosen ones, are again worshiping Apis, right? The white bull or the golden calf. So the bull was a symbol, also with King Minos, and we will get there, is a symbol of what Greece actually stood for. And it was exactly the constellation. Now the sun in the precession of the equinoxes was always appearing in the sky in the morning, which is truly crazy. So we have empires on planet Earth representing the higher movements of the celestial body. And they were exactly like creating empires according to the physical representations they had in the constellations. And so we're seeing this mirroring process. When there was, in the precession of the equinoxes, the sun was going up in the symbol of lion. All the empires on planet Earth were displaying the symbol in front of the temples, and we're worshiping the lion.
Yeah. The age of Leo, I believe, that was the prior. For those of you who don't know, the age of Leo was basically the prior zodiac age, and so there were a lot of empires that throughout human history, because these zodiac constellation periods, they're very long, and they last for several thousands of years, and so a lot of these empires, they had their equivalents of scientists or priests, whatever you want to call them, seers. Their culture was very spiritually connected to these zodiac signs, and each one, according to them, was very cyclical. Each sign had their time where they would rise and go away, and a new one would take over its place, and it was like a never-ending cycle of variety.
And again, so we have also the number 12 reflecting aspects of these zodiacal
exactly
signs, right?
And so it's no surprise that they talk about, like, a lot of these stories, a lot of these empires, that they came about during that period because these were times of extreme change, and and they were, and it was, I mean, with the rise of every, I guess if we really went back into it, with the rise of every zodiac age, there's always like a massive change happening for human civilization, and it's nothing crazy, it's nothing super mysterious. It's just, I guess, it is what it is, because a lot of events happen throughout certain periods in human history, and they're closely connected to like certain aspects of zodiac signs. So it's no surprise that we had the lion, which is all about strength.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, every time we have this transition from one zodiacal sign to the next one in the precession of the equinoxes, there were always great cataclysms happening and great like upheavals and turmoils. So every time we're crossing from one eon, the Greeks called these epochs of 2,150 years that were assigned to each zodiacal sign. So you have 2,150 years approximately assigned to each sign, because every sign would occupy 30 degrees of space on the celestial circle, on the celestial wheel. And so 12 signs, 30 degrees, aka 360 degrees. So in the span of almost 26,000 years, every zodiacal sign would get its 2,100 something years and would represent an eon, an epoch. And so every sign was dominating also the culture on Earth. And that is the truly mind-blowing thing. And Pat, you're totally right. Ancients had words for everything. That's why I also say over here at the COACHMC studio, when sometimes people are surprised when they come over for a session, because they believe, oh, it's acting, and he gives me just some instructions and manuals on how to, kind of nail the audition. But hey, look who we got here. Thank you so much for stopping by, Hypno.
What's up? He showed up. No way. Hey, good to see you, Hypno, man. Yeah, we're now going real deep, talking about the zodiac age that probably inspired the story of Hercules, which is very interesting because Brett mentioned earlier the concept of man versus nature, and the most ironic part is that the age of Exactly. They had words
Yeah.
for the constellations. You know,
Right.
those words changed over time, but the core interpretations of them remained. And I think that's what helped humanity move forward as a society, because as much as some people may not want to believe, for a long time in human history, and we're talking like periods that even conventional science can agree on, there is evidence of groups of human spiritual leaders that especially started to pop around the age of Leo, which, if you want to
Oh,
know like
yeah.
a specific time frame, we're talking like
Yeah.
10,000 to 8,000 BC, which was
BC.
the last time. Yeah. And so
We're
this
coming
was a
out of
time
the
where,
age.
yeah,
Yes.
this was a time, whether you're into alternative theories or not, where it was viewed that
For
human
sure.
beings all of a sudden started to become
Yeah.
smarter, either through, if you want to say, intervention by beings
Whatever.
from outside or from inside, or simply humanity evolving through crossbreeding with other species. Whatever your take is on it.
Right.
There is no doubt during this time period, humankind as a whole started to, instead of cowering behind trees, they started to say, hey, we can make weapons. We
We
can gather
actually,
together and we can make huts, and we can
we,
have people interpret our future for us.
I
And
mean,
civilization began.
we don't, we
If we
probably
go with the yes, we know we're gonna go with the standard, coach,
no,
because
we're not gonna go. I mean, I'm
no,
totally open to discussion.
oh god, no. But wait, we got like 8 more.
No, we got so many labors more. No, so to give you the what happened. So he captured the golden hind. He subdued, right, the Erymanthian boar, which wasn't easy. But what happened there while he was subduing the Erymanthian boar? So Hercules.
Hello.
Hello. All right.
Oh, there you are. Okay, YouTube tried to send. Yeah, YouTube tried to censor Coach.
Yes.
Hashtag YouTube conspiracy. Hashtag free the
Oh,
coach.
wow. I have a great conspiracy theory about also Greek mythology. We're gonna drop that on Saturday.
Lord.
Otherwise, today
Yeah.
it's gonna explode. But what's interesting about the encounter with the Erymanthian boar, what he did there, he just went there to kind of subdue this animal, and Lord and behold, he met some friends, and these friends were the centaurs, right? And these mighty animals that were considered beasts. But truth of the matter is, a couple of those centaurs weren't beasts at all. They were incredible beings, and also very intelligent. And one of his friends actually was Pholus, and he was part also of a larger group of centaurs that were also teaching the gods back then, like archery. Like Chiron, Apollo's friend, was also the bowmaster of Hercules and of other gods in the Olympus. So centaurs had this mixed, ambiguous type of reputation, but nonetheless they were
the thing that all furries dream of. Okay, let's be honest here. Bunch of half men, half horse people, except Chiron and one other dude were the only ones that weren't stupid or violent.
Right.
That's weird to say, but that's basically what happened. I do feel bad for Chiron though.
I feel bad too.
Chiron got Chiron gets the bad rap, dude. Like he trained all these people, and then this is how he gets to go. That was
such a good guy. It was very.
To give you guys some background, basically, I believe, was it before or I think it was after this labor, right? Yeah, I think he cleans the stables.
I think no, that was after the labor, but he went to no, please.
No. Basically, what occurred is, at the beginning, the centaurs were just getting ready to attack him, because they were very violent. They were described as being the kind of people that you wouldn't want to encounter walking across the street. Like you know how like when you walk around in the hood, you're like, shit, I regret coming here because everybody's looking at me and they're gonna jump me.
Yeah.
Well, to the ancient Greeks, encountering a centaur it's basically like walking into the hood wearing a bunch of gold chains. Okay, you're gonna get jumped. They're gonna attack you. And so what ended up occurring is Chiron and and his other fellow intelligence centaur, which I believe was one of Hercules' friends as well. They vouched for him. They said, "Oh no, he comes here in peace, brothers. We're gonna have a feast. This guy just killed this boar. Let's party. Let's get drunk." And everybody has a good time. They're getting drunk, eating, whatever you want to think of. And then Hercules is like, "Yo, I'm out of drinks. You got more?" And they're like, "Yeah, we sure do. There's the cellar." And then and then Hercules, being Hercules, of course, he sees the most strange looking jug that he can think of. Right. And he thinks, "Man, this thing smells good. This thing tastes good." And so what he does is he chucks that whole mofo down like it's no tomorrow, and comes walking out like happy as can be. But then there's like a bunch of angry centaurs, and poor Chiron and his friend are all shocked, because God damn it, he pooped it all because
disrespectful. I mean, you can't do that. I mean,
I need you guys to understand why. Because you see, that wine that Hercules drank, it wasn't just any wine. No. That was the wine. That was the wine that the god of wine and revelry, Dionysus, gave to the centaurs as a gift. And so they would use this as a ceremonial wine that they would do it for special events. And all of the centaurs knew that he drank it because this wine had an especially unique, pungent after scent that it would leave on whoever drank it, that only the centaurs could smell, and they could smell it from miles away.
Very special scent, something unique that is absolutely just. And it was a
bloodbath afterwards. It was a jar, yeah. It was a bloodbath. Like the centaurs,
4 centuries old, and very holy to the centaurs and to hold their culture, and it was gifted by. Also very interesting, Dionysus was born on the 25th of December. He also had 12 disciples. He was also, anointed. He carries all the features of, all these immaculate, beings that were born out of,
see what you're doing there. I can see what he's doing.
It's a very interesting connection. Also the god of fertility, the god who he's also the one who practiced, of course, the ritual of Cana, where he turned water that was coming down in September into early wine, of course, right?
No, but I do, just to exactly. Yes.
That's a bad
Please
idea.
Don't drink from strange containers. It might belong to centaur. You do not want to get a centaur. Have a Snickers. You're a centaur when you're hungry. No, seriously, they should do that. That'd be an amazing ad. But
that would be a fantastic ad for sure.
That would really be a great ad for a Greek mythology movie or video game. Like, it would be amazing. But I want you, yes, because the more you know, yeah. But what was crazy is, so Hercules wasn't just alone. He came in with a bunch of companions because, he's been doing all these great deeds. Of course, people want to follow him. But here's the little caveat over here. Anyone that followed him would end up dying terribly. Like, we're talking, centaurs find out. Right. Yeah, centaurs find out that he drank this wine. Chiron couldn't settle down the situation, not even with his friend. And they just attacked him, and Hercules, being drunk and being Hercules, he just smashes everyone to bits.
And the thing was also that Hera was instigating more rage to the centaurs. She was also, again, because of course she had not enough. Right?
Yes, that annoying piece of crap.
Absolutely going nuts over her, kind of firing them up, and so it was like a wild feast of blood, bones, and crushed skulls all over the place.
All of Hercules' companions died. He was so drunk he started shooting centaurs with the hydra poison arrows, and accidentally one of them that he shot in the general direction, it shot Chiron. But the thing is,
it shot Chiron exactly.
Yeah. But the problem with Chiron is that unfortunately, Chiron was a demigod as well, or he was like a godly. He basically, his one of his
creature,
parents
yeah.
was a god, yeah,
Mm.
and so technically he's a demigod, but of the centaurs, the only one really. You
Centaurs
know
are
what I mean?
mortal beings. I mean,
Yeah,
but they
a
wouldn't be allowed
divine,
to be
immortal
part of
being with
that.
divine
Yeah.
origins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So, you know, he couldn't die because he was immortal, and so he was just in constant pain from the poison. And so what Zeus did, because he felt really sorry for this poor man, is he made him into a constellation, and you know, took him up to heaven. You know, very Enoch like as usual.
Yes. Zeus is Deus, right? It's just God. It's
Yep.
just the word for God. There are many. There are like with all the Homer stories. You have variants. You have sometimes you have principles where the hero comes back to the pain that he caused and kind of he creates a redemption. Sometimes it's Zeus chipping in or the higher gods chipping in and kind of resolving the situation out of pity and compassion. Here you have two story like side stories again that like alternative stories where the one says that Zeus immediately kind of helped the centaur to at least kind of ease his pain and turn him into a constellation. There's another version where Hercules completed all of the 12 labors, and I don't quite remember it right, but I believe it was that after having completed the labors, he asked Zeus, what, like, to kind of install a deal to give you something immortal, and you would give me something mortal back. So he turned Chiron into Zeus, turned it over to Zeus, and then and Zeus consumed him and turned it into a constellation. So he released him from his pain, and he gave something Hercules back, which I don't quite remember. So there's also this type of a version where Hercules actually
Yeah. And I think we went a little bit too far ahead because I believe that was. Oh no, I remembered. My bad, guys. I went too far ahead. Basically, the whole story with Chiron was actually after like he completes the labor where he needs the help of Prometheus. And I forgot all about Prometheus. Oh god.
Oh well, yeah, exactly, because that was it. Because
Yeah.
thank
That
you,
was way
so
later
much.
on. Was that a different version?
No, that's the different version. Like
Okay.
Hercules, at the end of his labors, turns in Chiron, and Chiron gets released into the constellation, gets eased from a pain, and the one mortal is Prometheus. So because Prometheus helped Hercules with the Hesperides apples later on, and so as a thank you, he releases him from being chained to the Caucasus, and finally he can roam free. And Prometheus we covered in the first show where we talked about the creation of man.
What did they?
I want to ask you guys.
Doesn't like a later. Oh yeah. No, go ahead.
The we puller is I want to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about a shared universe with superhero stories, mecha stories, battle royales, kaiju stories, killer monster stories, and a serial killer anthology?
I mean, like just in general, I think shared universes are shared universes to me are double-edged sword because on one end, that concept is amazing. You have so much more variety and potential of what you can create. But on the flip side, if it's not done properly, it can lead to some very crappy
I agree.
media.
Sometimes it can, to liquefy the product too much.
Yeah, that's really that's mostly what I think about it. But me and Coach are in agreement with that at this point. Like we've seen enough crap to know like shared universes is like 50-50 if you're gonna get a good one or a bad one. But it would be amazing if they ever did one where they just like did a fictional shared universe where we just have like the Greek mythology heroes all be together. And
I mean, if
it
you
would
look
be
at
amazing, like just one last
right?
adventure.
I mean,
Yeah.
if we look, like, why is this also so interesting? Because we find these archetypes, of course, in every time we look at advertising, we look at comic book culture, entertainment culture, right? They're based on these archetypes that, right, that even the mightiest and strongest, they have one weak spot, they have one final seduction, they have one thing that kind of makes them invincible or completely fragile. That's the beauty of them. And so these archetypes get always explored, whether it's in commercial and ads. And this is why interesting, because Greek mythology gives us a blueprint on how to understand these heroes' journeys and what they actually stand for. It's the psychological development. Again, if you look at all these threats of Hercules, right? He needs to be fast and elegant. He needs to dominate his opponent. He needs to come up with strategies. He needs to control the boar, right? The intemperance, right? The anger. He needs to, fight. What the next of his labors was to clean the stables of.
Humility. Literally, it's
you
literally
the stables. Like we're talking about 3,000 pieces of cattle, so it was like building high piles of shit, like literally that he had to clean in one day. And so what he did, he deviated, the course of the river to flood the stables, and the river was also flooding the landscape, the countryside. So it was bringing actually fertilizer to the countryside when he did that. And so this ritual was repeated all 4 years, and through that, the Olympic Games were born.
Because humility is like the moral concept of, yes, every trial has a certain aspect of morality. Mm-hmm. So we're talking mostly about, in this case, humility, right? So or compassion. The idea is that acts of compassion, whether willing or unwilling, or good deeds. Let's go more Greek. Good deeds give greater rewards, but humble good deeds done in humility, obviously, are way more rewarding, because thanks to Hercules' quick thinking, thanks to his quick thinking, the entire countryside was awarded with multiple years of a good harvest because of what the river did. And basically, in short, guys, it cleared out all the shit and moved it to very barren land and made it super fertile. And unfortunately for Hercules here, it didn't work out in his favor, because he idiotically said to the king, to the local lord over there, or the king in that area, hey, the local lord basically said, hey, I'll give you some reward if you do this. And one of the conditions, besides everything we said, was, you cannot do any of these deeds for any reward. You have to do them for yourself. So if somebody tries to reward you for it, it doesn't count. So now we're at 12, and now we are halfway there.
Right. I'm not sure. Should we continue with the with it next time and leave the other?
Oh, I don't mind. I mean, we can.
We can.
If you guys have any questions, we can answer them right now, guys. So ask away.
No, I don't think, Pat, when you're saying morality isn't quite the right word. I think it's integrity what you mean. So Hercules had to show, no matter how humiliating and how bad and how difficult all of these tasks and all the missions that were impossible. We're talking about impossible missions, right? Possibly there was nothing more difficult to pull off back in the days. What have you heard of the impossible formula? There are 10 impossible formulas in mathematics. And these are also called the Millennium Formulas. They really exist. You get a Fields Medal if you solve one of these impossible formulas. You get $1 million and basically the Nobel Prize. It is a sort of an Oscar of mathematics and physics. It's the Fields Medal. And Eurystheus, what he was asking Hercules with his labors was like I would ask you today to solve all 10 impossible formulas. And so far in 150 years of mathematics, I think one was solved, right? With all the computers that we have, and we still have 9 left. And so he was really asked to pull off an impossible task. And if you look at Mission Impossible, the movies, and Ethan Hunt, right? The goddess of hunt, Artemis, right? The bow, the archer, Ethan, right? The first man, Ethan. So I think there is some sort of a parallel there, right? Why do you become the one that you are? Like there is Heraclit who says the war is the ultimate catalyst for evolution, because in times of war, of desperation, of absolute like focus on one resource and one resource only, you kind of develop the most incredible stuff, right? And so even Heraclit, like, the historian, was writing that war was actually the biggest instructor, the biggest catalyst to development. Hey, Gooch, thank you so much for stopping by. Yes.
Hey, you take care, Gooch.
Thank
you
take
really,
care,
man.
sir. And so interesting is that Hercules, in order to become even better, like even more than a demigod, right? Like eternal and be known till today, he had to pull off something like almost impossible, and to fight incredible, when he was fighting against these centaurs. I mean, we're talking about incredible beasts, the lion, the most dominant animal, the hydra, the most like poisonous monster and imaginable. So we're always talking about the highest achievements, the most important things, the most difficult tasks. It's not just one little thing that makes you a hero. It's that kind of chain of great events, of important events.
No, and I do want to make something very clear regarding this, because a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, well, only Hercules could accomplish this because he's a demigod. He's the strongest." But you have to understand, in Greek mythology, there are a lot of characters
Oh yes.
that are just as exceptional as him, and sometimes even more.
Mhm.
And they fail. They fail
Mhm.
hard because they don't have that sense of perseverance. They don't know. They make their special conditions or abilities the core of their being, and instead of nurturing it and learning more about the world or adapting to it properly and their abilities, they choose to remain stagnant, and as a
Mhm.
result they suffer more than everyone.
Mhm. That's a very good point.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, we're gonna go. Man, I don't now. I forget the name. Well, one day I'll remember the name, but until then,
Just wondering.
yeah, no,
Oh,
it
but
was
yeah.
like the name of the man. Oh, Orpheus. There we go. Yeah. So with
Orpheus.
Orpheus, guy was exceptional musician. He went through all this trouble to get his wife back from the dead. All he had to do was adapt to one tiny condition. Don't look
Just
back.
don't look back. He just
But
asked
he
you for
did
one
because
thing,
he had to. Because
because
he
he
did
wasn't
not.
sure. He wasn't
Yeah, he
sure.
did not follow directions. Such a basic concept. Follow directions.
The
And he
centaurs
said no.
clearly asked him, don't drink. Like, there was also one version where he was actually warned, where they told him, hey, we have this holy wine, but we can't
Yeah.
open it up for the party tonight, so make sure to not drink that. In one version, he was even warned to not drink from that jar, from that cup. And the other version, he was just, stumbling, like you described, like quite accidentally over it, and then it smelled so well, and
Mhm.
then he started drinking from it. Nonetheless, you are over at a friend's place, right? They offer you shelter, something to eat at a party. It's like that doesn't give you though the permission to kind of freely roam around and do whatever and kind of, you know, um
The
exaggerate,
concept of hospitality. Yeah,
right?
I
That you
forgot. In
right that
ancient times, this was a big deal.
of oh, are you kidding
The
me?
biggest of deals, I would say. Like after family murder, I think this was the biggest deal.
And so interesting that he lost two friends here, right? While drinking
Mhm.
from the forbidden wine. So this is probably one of the things. This wasn't even like a direct labor. The Aromanthian boar, he subdued pretty quickly. This happened because he got distracted, because he went to a party, because he was losing his guard. He was not paying attention anymore. And that's why two of his friends had to die in this circumstance, right? Because the one was accidentally killed. I think it was Follows who was no, or was it the other way around? Chiron, and then Follows then picked up the arrow that killed Chiron accidentally. That was dipped in the Hydra's blood, and Follows kind of wanted to smell it, I think, and then it fell down. I don't know why this immaculate being kind of, how is it possible that that an arrow slips through his fingers, but it fell down and kind of punctured his skin, and then he died. So it's interesting that that could have been avoided, right? This is something that this sideline of the story, right, could have been avoided if Hercules just subdued the boar, just backed Eurystheus, and that's it, right? No, instead he had to kind of, go on a party, and what happened was, the catastrophe that happened. But in the end, that catastrophe created the second constellation, the constellation of Sagittarius. And if you see the constellation of Sagittarius, you have the Centaur, you have the half horse, half warrior type of constellation.
Yeah, and this with these labors, you can see Hercules becoming more responsible of a person. He does learn his lessons. Now,
I
I'm not
think so
saying he
too.
becomes like.
No, but you're
I'm not
right.
saying he changes too much fundamentally, but he changes
No, you're
just
right.
as is required, and that helps with his entire like set of labors, because he cleans the stables, and then
He invents the
afterwards,
Olympian Games
yeah,
as a side product.
exactly.
So we have
And then we
then
get yeah.
he defeats the birds, the man-eating birds, right? That was very interesting. Like, he was gifted the castagnettes, and the castagnettes again are, they are wooden instruments being used by the Moorish people, by the Andalusian people, also the Spanish, Arabic people as well. And they're just instruments they clap in the flamenco tradition. You find them also. They're wooden instruments. They make this nice wooden noise, but they're also formed like the scrotum of a bull. Again, so we have the bull inserted again into this whole concept. What was driving the Greek culture? What was driving the mightiest warrior of the Greek?
I do like the fact that these birds were Ares' favorite, because they were literally like, he just loved these pets, and then this kid comes out of nowhere and just kills them. He was very pissed, I remember.
Yeah, he was super.
Really pissed
all
off.
of them were all gods were super pissed.
Yeah, like they were
Artemis wasn't
favorite pets
pleased,
or something.
right? Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why they were impossible tasks also. And what Hercules did, he kind of, scared them with the castanets. They played this melody, so they flew away, and he could pierce them with the arrows that were dipped into Hydra's blood, so they would be killed. After that, I think he went to Crete, because King Minos wasn't sacrificing the bull to Poseidon like he was told to do, and Poseidon went nuts about it, right? So in Crete, the bull was raging like crazy, but it wasn't Hercules' mission to kill him, just to capture him. Because
I do like how he does it. He just wrangles the sucker and runs straight through the entire Aegean Sea, and then just drops it off of Crete. And he just tells people like, handle it, boys. I'm out. I got butter stuff.
A very interesting thing is that a tyrant back then was considered a great ruler, because tyrant comes from the word tyrannos, that means a ruler who has planted his 4 feet like a bull into the ground. That's literally the translation. So a tyrannos was considered a great ruler because he was ruling like a bull, right? He had 4 feet planted the ground. It was impossible to kind of, come over him. He would be a great and wise king.
Yeah, he was bound to the world. He knew, he was grounded in how the world works, and so as a result, he was resolute and more fair. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's pretty awesome. When I think about it.
And again, like, how crazy is this? If we look at the precession of the equinox, it's not just some arbitrary date that we set up here and kind of works. No, this is how time counting works. So in the precession of the equinox, when the sun was transitioning from the zodiacal sun of the sign of the lion of Leo, from the constellation of Leo, into Taurus, right, into the bull, we saw the downfall of the Egyptian empire and the rise of the Greek empire, which was represented by the bull. And what was its most representative island? It was the island of Crete, where we find this legend of the Minotaur, who was the bull who was entrapped in the labyrinth and the maze of Daedalus created for the king of Minos, because he was so scared of that creature. So again, we have some sort of a terrestrial reflection of a celestial event.
And I always thought it was fascinating because Hercules basically got rid of the Minotaur's dad. Like, sad story when you think about it. Like, the dad was already a deadbeat bull, but no, he also had to get thrown out of the place. He got ran off. But
yeah. I mean, you're not supposed to go through the medicine cabinet when you're.
No, I would say not unless you ask Casper the Friendly Ghost. Maybe if he says yes, you go through it. I guess.
True.
Just avoid any used needles.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
that's true.
I think like what we also see here, of course, like in these tales, it's the forces of nature. It's everything comes into account, right? And so also here, I think there's an interesting blueprint for success that you shouldn't take anything for granted. Everything can be significant for your performance, for you kind of evolving, improving, getting better at creating something. And whether that's a piece of content for YouTube or a service or an object that you want to, something that you print out in a 3D printing machine, whatever it is that you have in mind, right? It's always about kind of finding a new solution. And where do these solutions come from? I mean, sometimes they come from impulses that are irrational, crazy, not always explainable. You don't know where it's coming from. You just go with it and you experiment. Maybe it works. And if it does, double down on that. And this is where, you get traction behind your thoughts, behind your ideas. And it doesn't matter how big the enemy seems to be, right? There's always a point in getting up again and trying it again, because it's not about winning necessarily winning this battle or the next battle. It's winning the war. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, all of these stories are about basically telling you the core concept of life, or the core teaching of life, and that is you can be the biggest and the best, but the one that will probably last throughout the day is going to be the one that takes it one step at a time. Because that one day you can be the biggest or the best, but then the other day you'll lose everything. And so all these stories teach the moral lesson of being patient, that everything, ironically so, you are cultivating things.
I mean,
you're cultivating strength, wisdom, whatever.
Sometimes it's not easy to eat shit, right? Even Hercules, he had to fucking clean the stables, right? 3,000 pieces of cattle, like in an enormous stink that was, kind of emanating from that place and coming from Aegea's stables. That was definitely not a nice mission, right? It's humiliating. It's absolutely awful, right? But sometimes you need to go through these, times where it's awful and it's really. Just by doing the worst thing that you can like ask like a holy person to do, right? To clean out stables and to dive deep into horse shit and cattle shit.
Yeah,
that was the catalyst for the Olympian Games, for a beautiful ritual, right? For a very like in the beginning, like a very interesting and pure concept. Now of course it's marketing and money and shit. But back in the days, it was like, all right, every 4 years, let's celebrate our humility, our pureness. Let's do something that is really difficult to pull off.
Yeah, it's unfortunate things have succumbed to marketing, but that's how it always is, And also, at least to kind of, I know we're getting near the end, but at least I want to mention that the 6th trial, I like how you wrote foulness, rottenness of humanity, because is mentioning the fact that not only throughout life you'll have to deal with stuff that you'll probably hate, but you also have to put up with the fact that you may have to deal with very unsavory people, or come into the realization that if you don't learn to adapt to the world and try to find a way of making it better, more of these type of people will propagate. Because at the end of the day, people that are this foul, this rotten, if you will, they come about mostly because of their environment. I mean, for Christ's sakes, these birds came into being because the environment was bad and Ares is an asshole. Okay, right. So obviously, yeah, it's so it's trying to tell you that in the whatever environment you find yourself in, there's going to be one where you're going to encounter unsavory people, and you have to learn to live with them and deal with them, and hopefully try to redeem some of them so that the cycle doesn't repeat itself constantly.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. I agree. I agree. So we have a couple of other labors that were, of course, like truly hard and challenging. But I think number 10 is one of the most interesting. So what he had to do is to, to steal the kettle from Gyron, and he was living basically at the edge of the universe, right? And Gyron, you can imagine being a monster with 3 different bodies, 6 different arms, 9 different legs, like a very heinous, like an incredible monster. And what at the edge of the universe for the Greeks back then meant was basically the end of Europe and the end of the African western part of the African continent, because that was, to Herodotus, that was known. He was at the Reichert structure. He knew about the heart of the Sahara. He was at Mauritania. So they knew about the western confine of the African continent. They knew about the western end of Europe. They probably also had contacts with the British Islands. So they knew about this part, but everything, that was stretching over that, like going into the unknown, that was called the edge of the universe. So Hercules was called onto his quest to go there and kind of get rid of Gyron. And he basically wanders through Libya. Libya is, like Sicily, mentioned a couple of times in Greek mythology, with its very important and very interesting capital name also, Tripolis, right? Tripolis, the 3 poles. So it's the triangle. So that's the capital of Libya. So he travels through Libya, and it's a desert. It's very hot. So he threatens to kill Helios, the physical representation of the sun, with one of his arrows that was dipped into the blood of the Hydra. And so even Helios, the sun, is scared of the venomous poison.
He literally said, "Okay, bro,
Chill.
I'll dim the sun.
Hey,
I'll dim the lights. Don't shoot me."
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It's just like he says, "Hey, I'm gonna kill you. Turn the lights down." And he's just like, "Okay, don't do it." And like just how it's mostly because he's the son of Zeus and has the stinking arrows. Because that's like, I could not expect any other demigod to be able to pull that off unless they had a weapon that even gods feared. And eventually he does. He in order to get to the edge of the universe, he does go like to the Strait of Gibraltar, and according to the classical historians, he literally just rips the boulders apart. Yeah,
right.
Well, not rips the boulders apart. He's like, he separates Africa from Europe. Yeah, like he literally just does that.
So Hercules is the creator of 2 constellations, the defeater of the endless poison, the creator, the one that separates Europe from Africa, that frees Prometheus, the creator of man. So he kind of takes over some important jobs on the side. He has a lot of side quests that just as a secondary byproduct, kind of are great for humanity as well. So by taking on all these sacrifices, all these incredible, impossible missions, he does something great for the others, because he attracts all the bad, all the evilness, and by that the others can flourish and understand and get better in the process as well, right? So it's very, it's please.
Yeah, no, it's a time period that we must understand that these classical writers were working more towards rationality, but they also knew that what the people wanted was not to believe in the hope of like some random god that will hopefully save them in the end because they did so ages ago. They wanted to create, I would say, heroic gods, if you will, like human, like God. They wanted to create God men, if you will, where they were human, but they were something more, and because of them, we are now here, and you should use them as a way to inspire yourself to
For sure. Like
achieve
people
greatness.
always attribute this to like some sort of a fascist or overlord or supermensch Nietzsche type of thought, but that's not true. If you look at ancient cultures and all these people from the past, they have incredible buildings, they have astronomical tables that were absolutely off the chart. They knew exactly how things were working out. So you can attribute a certain wisdom to those people. And even they believed that they were somehow initiated, brought into existence by this, this entity, this race, this Sophia, this logos, right? This creation, the immovable mover of all things that came into existence and gave wisdom, right? That all these cultures were somehow kind of, kickstarted by this huge influx of incredible knowledge, right? That came all in through these beings. So there were these chosen beings that somehow had like this incredible knowledge that helped, these civilizations to flourish. At least this is what the record tell us, and the steles and all these inscriptions kind of tell us. So you have to give some credence to these people who built all this stuff and left us all these incredible inventions and discoveries, when they claim that they had their knowledge given to them, not acquired over time by just observation. They claim that this knowledge was handed over to them. Now, if that was a spiritual overhanding of material, right, it was just happening like in a meditation type of state, right, in a spiritual way, where you just kind of channel maybe information like subconsciously, or if that was truly like physical, in terms like, here you have a blueprint to build a pyramid, something more like that we don't really know. I mean, we have writings of Thoth telling us that he was giving the blueprint to the Egyptian people so they could build the pyramid. Unfortunately, these blueprints were never to be found, so we just have to kind of go with the written tales here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we just we try to make the best that we can with the stories that are available to us, but even so, we should learn from them. Even if we know that the person behind them may have been over embellishing them a little bit,
Right.
we should at least try to get something out of what we read. So
Yes.
that's my take on Greek mythology at the end of the day. I want to see what I can get out of it.
So he, basically he takes a walk in the park with this fellow over here, and that was his 12th mission. And his 11th mission was getting the apples from the Hesperides, which was very tough, because if you were not born on that island, you couldn't get access to the apple trees that were giving that were growing there. So he had to come up with a plan. So he freed Prometheus. Prometheus told him where the garden is. He went to Atlas, because Atlas was a titan, and he asked him to grab a couple of apples from this garden. And Atlas said, sure, why don't you kind of hold the sky for me, so you kind of release me from the pain for a couple of minutes. So he came back after a while, and he didn't want to take on the sky again. Atlas just asked Hercules, hey, what about me just delivering those apples to your cousin, to the king, right, who you're working for right now? And he said, yeah, why not? Yeah, can you do that? Just let me just fix my clothes, because I'm a bit uncomfortable here. Can you just hold this guy just for one last time, just for a couple of seconds, so I can fix my stuff, and then I will get it back? And Atlas said, yeah, why not? Sure. I'll help you out. So he took over this guy again, and sure enough, Hercules collected the apples, and off he went.
Hercules literally psyched this dude.
It's incredible.
He literally is like,
Atlas wasn't the smartest. So he fought against Zeus, and he lost. He sided the old Titan regime. He lost, and but he gave birth, of course, to the Atlas Mountains, because over time he couldn't hold the sky anymore, and so he kind of morphed into the mountains, and he morphed into this firmament, so he could hold it forever.
That's always quite the weird explanation for holding the sky, but I still can't believe that all happened because some random half breed just psyched him into thinking he was gonna get his way. That's what I always love about Greek mythology. People are getting psyched all the time.
You know what I thought about this? It's the exact same thing. It's like sometimes there are some absurd twists in these incredible, elaborate, and also beautifully written stories that are also the flowery descriptions of Homer. I mean, now guys, you hear us talking, Dragon Slayer and myself, and yeah, I mean, sure, we can talk nicely and elegant, but if you, of course, study the language of Homer, you will be blown away by his descriptions and the profoundness sometimes that it was putting in, and how contemporary these works still seem to be. Like if you read it right now, you don't realize that it's a couple of 100 years old for sure, maybe even thousands of years old, but it doesn't matter. It's really old, right? And so, but it still works today. And even Homer, with this beautiful language, with all this ancient baggage and all this incredible stuff, was sometimes explaining stuff that was just absurd, right? It didn't really make sense. It's all of a sudden, like Atlas just trades this guy back because Hercules is uncomfortable and needs to fix his pants. What are we talking here? In the ancient paintings, Hercules is always depicted as naked anyway. So these gods never wear anything, right? So what's the point here? What is the metaphor here? And that's like interesting for you guys, maybe also on Facebook, Instagram, the creative community over here on YouTube. Is like, maybe you want to dig it into a bigger research field and kind of find out what's the deal here. Like, how can a Titan be so stupid? What is the real metaphor that Homer likes to tell us? What is definitely is it that sometimes you are so big that you don't think that you can fail? And so you do something that is truly stupid, but you were not able to see it because you were standing literally in front of the tree and not perceiving the forest. Is that the metaphor here? I'm not sure. So there are always very interesting points when you read those ancient tales where you kind of, start kind of, or at least that happens to me, you start kind of wondering about, before you go to the next paragraph, about what that was all about. Don't you agree?
Oh yeah, I agree that I've always wondered, what was going on in the mind of whoever wrote it. And
Right.
For Homer, all I can say is, buddy, if you existed or if you did not exist and somebody just wrote it for you because they heard you speak about it and your name wasn't Homer, the only thing I can say is this: holy shit, people took you seriously.
All right.
Like, people really based off everything around you, and inspired people like Alexander the Great to literally go visit the tomb of Achilles, or that's I believe it's the tomb of Achilles, and whether or not I believe that.
The
No, I try to
Oracle,
learn this.
and it's just like he also consulted the Oracle of Delphi. I mean, the Macedonian king, right? He was part of the reign of Philip. Ultimately, Cleopatra was it's just it's that ancestry of Philip the Great, and then Alexander, and they consulted the spirits of the past, right? They consulted these old manuscripts, these old analogies. They were looking at the stars. They were planning everything according also to this. They were taking everything into account. Nothing was coincidental for these people.
Yeah, no, everything needed to have a deeper meaning, or
absolutely.
Or you couldn't convince people to do what you wanted them to do. I mean, yeah, it was convenient, but
no, sure.
Also, that's just how people lived at the time. People needed a purpose because, let's be honest, the world they were living in was constant violence and extreme extreme fear of, like, are you going to be alive the next day? Is your house going to get burned down? Is your family going to get stolen and sold into slavery? Or worse, are you going to die? That was the thing that people had to deal with. So they needed to believe in something greater than that in order to have the hope that they can overcome
and
this entire this world.
Absolutely. But the fascinating thing about also the tale of Hercules, and of course 12, like every number in itself, right? We analyze now roughly. We just kind of scratch the surface of the tip of the iceberg, actually, right? We analyze roughly for what the lion stands for, what the boar stands for, and what all these animals, what kind of adjectives they're standing for, attributes, what they were really meaning, and psychologically also exploring them. Of course, There, on the way to greatness, you have to work with your intemperance, with your inconsistencies, inadequacies, you have to work against your own anger issues. You have to work, emotionally also on how to dominate and be determined. So these labors were, like I said, were a blueprint, right, for your worksheet, for your workflow, for your preparation. It doesn't really matter what you want to achieve. But also, if you look at the numbers themselves in Greek tradition, 1 to 10, that was everything, right? So 1 to 10, and it's funny because it's 0 and 1, right? So every computer works in 0 and 1s in a way. Not anymore like it used to, but this is how everything started. So the coding program, 1 and 0 is also man and woman, right? 1 being the vertical, being the man, and 0 being Thea, being the goddess that creates everything, Diana, right? The fertility goddess. So 1 was already the potential for everything, and it was also the representative of the immovable mover. And 0 was the representative of the container of everything, right? The conduit of the information. So here again, the labors are representing that cycle of understanding that you have to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, right? And you have to go through these stages of improvement, of evolvement. Every stage, teaches you something else. And you should be, if Hercules accepted them, of course, he wasn't mad and happy about them, he was mad happy about them, but he accepted it. And for 10 years, this is what he did. And don't you find it interesting that nowadays people tell you, yeah, you have to do something like 10,000 hours, or you do it at least for 10 years, and then you become a master of it. And then you finally would start also making money with it. So again, the numerical values here, I think they also tell us a deeper language. They're talking in a deeper language. They're giving us a subconscious code. It's not just, arbitrarily like, oh yeah, there were 10 labors and then it became 12 because 2 technically it didn't comply with the requirements of the game. No, I think this is all on purpose. This was all telling us something. This is all a blueprint.
No, yeah, you're correct. I mean, and hey, Brad,
Hey,
thank
Brad,
you, man.
absolutely.
We appreciated you as well. It's always fun when we get people
Absolutely.
that ask just ask us questions. See what what's going on in our noggins when we're talking about this kind of stuff. It's like really deep stuff, and we try to entertain as much as possible. But
sure,
I think at the end of the day, at least what the story of Hercules does for me, it sort of gives me.
Huh? Do we want to talk about like how he died, because that is like incredible, right? Because
the way he died, it's yeah. So the way he died, oh goodness, the abridged version is, if you guys remember the story about the whole centaur genocide that we talked about,
right?
Sorry. Basically, one of those centaurs tried to kill Hercules, but he failed, or he wanted to kill. He swore vengeance against Hercules. And
he was befriended with Chiron, one of the centaurs that died.
He wanted vengeance for the centaurs' deaths of his tribe. And so what he did is he waited years of prep. He had years of preparations for this. Right. And so what he did is he hatched a plan where he would pretend to kidnap Hercules' newer wife, the one he acquired later on after he completed all of his labors and had children with her. And he would pretend to kidnap her and cross the river.
That was Diodora, I think.
Yeah, Diodora, right? Yeah.
Right.
And he was going, and supposedly the whole plan was to pretend that he was going to basically violate her in front of him because he couldn't cross through the river.
Right.
Because the current was extremely high. But then obviously he knew that Hercules' first reaction would be to pull out the bow with the poison Hydra arrows. And he shot this guy with those arrows. And as he's dying, he tells Diodora that he knows that, she is worried that what happens if he looks at another woman, because he's lustful. And he's done this a lot, by the way, Hercules. He's had a bunch of illegitimate children as well. And Diodora, you know, believes the lie the centaur tells her, which is that, oh, grab a vial, put my blood in it, and whenever you feel like he is faltering in your love for him, pour this all over whatever you want, and he will fall in love with you forever, right? Immediately. And one day she sees that he's going out with some random woman as usual, and being jealous, she basically she grabs like this very silky robe, I believe it was. Not silk, it was a cotton robe or something. I don't remember. I think it was a silk robe. And what she does is she pours that centaur blood all over the dress and has him wear it. But what she doesn't realize is this plan has finally come to fruition, because when he was dying, his blood had the poison of the Hydra in his system. And so when she put it in the vial, that blood was still poisonous. And so when she poured it all over the set of clothes that she thought once he put it on, he would fall in love with her, what ended up occurring instead is Hercules was burning with so much pain from the poison that he was causing, that he literally tore down portions
His
of
own skin.
No, not only that, but also portions of his own city to build a giant pyre.
Right.
And then told, and then told his, I think he told his nephew, was his nephew or one of his loyal retainers, to burn him, to just set the thing on fire, because because he was half god and he was extremely sturdy. So obviously his death was going to be long and painful. So he wanted to end it right there. And so he commits ritual self-deletion by assistance. And and of course his wife finds out the hard way that, by touching the dress and feeling the same pain of the poison, that, hey, she was tricked all along to become like the tool of this weak centaur's vengeance, which, is the concept of, all your actions have consequences, and some of them will even carry on later in your life. And just because you haven't received the consequence yet doesn't mean it won't happen. It's just a matter of time. So every choice you make sure they are done with good intentions, and that they won't, and that they harm as very few people as possible. That's the whole point. That's one of the, if we could find a secret meaning, a second secret core meaning behind the story of Hercules, that would be one of those. Because at the end of the day, he endured everything, went through the worst, finally achieved redemption. But at the end of the day, one bad act is all it took for everything to come crashing down and end horribly for him. Because if he had made a better decision, he probably would have lived out the rest of his days pretty well off and would have become more renowned. But instead, this is what happens to him. It's very similar to the story of Samson. Once he loses his hair, he can't do much. And then so he begs God to give him one last chance to just take as many Philistines with him, right? And so it's the same concept, but in this case, Hercules is just begging his retainer to kill him, and after he's built the pyre himself with the last remaining bits of energy of his supernatural strength, because he can't do it for long. And so after he burns to death, Zeus, recognizing his heroic deeds, finally brings the spirit to Olympus and crowns him, if you will, or promotes him to a god, and he becomes part of the Olympians, which was basically the final middle finger to Hera, because she was not expecting that.
Not expecting that, but after this crazy long time, like this vindictive bitch of Hera was putting this poor fellow like really like his whole lifetime through such an incredible time, and in the end he was, of course, lifted into the highest ranks, and now he finally could enjoy his life a little bit more and not go through this hardmanship anymore. But like for decades, right, she tortured him.
Yeah, Yeah, and he ended up like Enoch,
Yes.
living amongst the gods. Except unlike Enoch, he died, and
It's also
but
interesting because Hercules, in a way, like you said, it's Samson, it's Gilgamesh. There is a lot of Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian kind of influence here in these tales for sure as well. We have, also the influence from the Egyptian angle. So definitely these were all syncretic pieces of literature, even if let's theoretically assume it was really written by this guy called Homer 8 BC. He was still a child of his time, and the influence there in the Mediterranean basin, um yeah um that influence back then was incredible, because you had Phoenician roots, you had Akkadian roots, you had the roots of the newborn empires of the Greeks, of the Carthaginians. I mean, it was just incredible. You had from the West influences coming in. So something special happened in that area, right? We have something like an accumulation of many different, like dramatically different cultures, all kind of flourishing like crazy, really using their maximum potential. Everybody was contributing in an incredible way to add a new, like, astonishing piece of culture to this great cultural mosaic back then.
yeah, and like everything with Greek mythology, it still lives on, and we are still going to be learning from it. Probably hundreds of years from now, unless the whole world resets. So until that
Yeah,
day, we will be learning from the past as much as we can, because if we're not aware of our past, then our future is even more uncertain, and we need to know about our past so that we can make a brighter future.
that was the Michael Jackson close-up word for today. Thank you so much. I love that. And
Oh,
but
really? I just said what I thought. I wasn't
no,
thinking
it's
about
beautiful. I
that.
mean, there's no better way of closing this slowly but surely. I think we have learned a lot today, man. Dragon Slayer. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, you're always
My
like, it's
pleasure,
so
man.
it's absolutely great talking to you. I feel like, oh, finally someone who understands me, and we can go in so many different directions. And you are so knowledgeable about so many topics, and have like deep and stratified, like knowledge about stuff, and it's very interesting. And if not, then at least you're open and curious. And I think this is what a great researcher does, right? To be open, to have that, like we mentioned in the first Greek mythology session, in the first open class doodle. It's like Pandora had insatiable curiosity instilled by Zeus. You need that. Um, you need that curiosity. You need that genuine, that urgency, that you feel like, no, I want to know a bit more about that. No, I just a bit more here and a bit more there. And it's like, this is how you build a legacy.
No, yeah, and I wished the showrunners behind that Alexander Netflix documentary were just as dedicated, but unfortunately,
Yes.
nope.
Nope. Oh, that was
It's
horrible.
at least this at least it wasn't Cleopatra levels of bad. It could have
True.
been worse. It
It
was
was a
just
bit naive.
it
It
was
was,
stale,
yeah, it was a
very
bit,
stale. Like
right.
very low
A
effort.
good way to
Like
put it. Like,
it,
it had no magic. I feel like when you, and maybe
bro,
we will
the
dive
extras.
into really, like, yeah,
We can. Hey, bro, we can. I don't mind talking about that documentary with you if you want. Like,
yeah.
you
We
know,
could
m-
we could
if
definitely
you
do
want
that.
like some other time, but I will. I don't
Sure.
care if it's like late news. I don't care. I need to talk to someone about it. It was annoying.
It's
Oh
so
god.
bad. I mean, the colors, I mean, you can, of course, you make decisions also based on budget and everything, but you can clearly tell sometimes that products, even with a small budget, are still looking great, or they have charm, because the people really took care about the content, really wanted to kind of, develop a message. Like tonight, we really wanted to tell people how these ancient stories still have like contemporary value, how they still teach us a very valuable lesson today, and how the stuff is highly applicable and super effective. If you look at it, it's like also just what we did, right? To think about these concepts, these stories, these mythological legends, just to kind of think about like, hey, what is it that motivates these people to write about that? Like what is their view, and kind of understanding that it was a translation of even bigger events, that they were conceiving themselves, like understanding on which scale everything was happening, and kind of how many times do we do that today? Like kind of scaling things, putting things into perspective, kind of when in doubt, zoom out, right? Taking a step back and seeing the macro perspective of something, and see like understanding, wow, there are so many layers of forces, so many layers of of energy that are kind of interacting with me, sometimes not even me consciously realizing that. And so taking all this into account just makes you also, I think, a better traveler in this quest called life, just a better researcher. And the ones with that curiosity, I think the ones they are the ones that are thriving, because this is where we get our inventions from, our stories from. This is where we get our entertainment from. So if you can't take something out of that, I don't know where you can take something out.
Yeah, no. I mean, heck, we got to learn. We got to learn from whatever we can out of life, man. Because lately, been a lot of ignorant people, and
Yeah,
hell, I need it. We need smarter people, for Christ's sakes.
for
Okay,
sure.
we
If you
need we
want
need
to,
more.
also, if you want to smarten up, very soon we have something beautiful coming up here at the COACHMC studio on Saturday. It's 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what we're going to do, we're going to have a beautiful freaking masterclass. Yes, sir. And you can register right now with the link down in the description. It doesn't cost you anything, like any monthly masterclass. We have audition tips, volume 2, a bit more specific, character oriented, scene oriented audition tips, how you can nail the audition, which is the ultimate. It's a one process, right, that will kind of determine whether or not we will proceed in the making of the movie, if we are still part of that, to at least book the callback, to be in the room more and more, longer and longer. And if you want to explore how to do that, jump into this masterclass this Saturday, February 17th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find the description down here or directly register on Eventbrite. And hey, guys, also a not neat thing. We have a new website. It's called readytoperform.com. We have
He got a new website too? No
yes,
way.
yes. So
He's
come
got a
on.
website too. No,
It's all there.
no.
It's all resources for you guys to perform better, to communicate better, to create greater art. So visit our new
It's
website.
pretty. It's a pretty website. What the heck?
Thank you, sir.
This
Yes.
website is awesome.
My
Whoa.
actually, that's my wife built it. I mean, we shot the videos and did everything, and she built it.
Man.
Why it is for free? I think because we're awesome and we want to help
Yeah.
people, and we want like what Dragon Slayer commentary said. We really mean that. I mean, you have to imagine that the two of us, Dragon Slayer and me, we know each other for more than a year now. Every Saturday of our lives, right? We are in front of almost every Saturday. We're in front of a screen, right? And we are, part of the Saturday Night Hypnosis, giving people entertainment, culture, hope, insights, all sorts of background information, because we love to kind of do that, like create a thriving culture that thinks differently about, creating stuff, about, being creative, about having something to work on and having real passions. And this is what we do, because we want to kind of foster this behavior, because only like that we can create better entertainment, our own entertainment, and kind of thrive in this industry as well.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah.
looking at the past, and no, and
Oh,
funny enough,
absolutely.
looking at the past can even help us identify a lot of
Oh yes.
problems that we're
Oh yeah.
having, including in the film industry, and in
For
other
sure.
industries, but specifically what we talk about on Saturdays. Which, if you want to catch us on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. Eastern Standard Time, by the way. You can catch us on Hypnotic's channel. He is the one that hosts those Saturday streams.
Yes.
If you can, but yeah, basically, if you want to find us there we are. And guys, again, if you want good guidance on acting, but also just how to be a more efficient, marketable person that someone will want to hire. Again, this is not me doing advertising. This is just me being realistic here. Okay. Like I said, like Coach says,
No, but Tim
come to the
makes
COACHMC studio.
right, but he makes a reasonable point. Usually they take money if they're great.
Yeah.
Well, yes, of course. If you do something in a great way, of course you get money for it. But back in the days, you had to advertise for something. So you had to spend money in order to advertise for your product or your service, because there was no other way to tell people what you were doing and why you were special with whatever you were doing. Nowadays, we don't spend that money anymore in blind advertising and blind just running ads in a newspaper and a magazine without really getting to know if that will ever generate a lead or, hey, for God help, even a conversion. Nowadays, what we do is we generously share some of our insights in order to let people evaluate if our creative value is really giving you some improvement, right? For your performance, for your product, for your mindset, for your career strategy. And if that is the case, then of course you might be interested in maybe booking a course at the COACHMC studio. But you can also jump into a free trial class. You can just hit me up and say, hey, I want to talk about what you do and present you what I do, and maybe we're a great match for each other. So we can also jump into a free trial class, half hour, and we can determine that there. But I feel like the economy has changed. It's not a fact of, the more I spend on advertising, the more people are interested in what I do. I feel like today we have such a hyper fragmentized way of how we generate money, right? We are single brands, and therefore instead of advertising, we are sharing nowadays in order to let people know what our core product is all about. And that, of course, shows if we kind of fulfill the expertise, if we have qualified ourselves, right, to catch your interest or not. So come over,
Yeah.
check us out, check
Yeah,
it out if that qualifies
check 'em
or
out.
not. Yeah.
Yeah. Just give him a chance. You'll see how well this will help you. And for me at least, if you want to catch me, see what my content is about, then you just have to literally write the name Dragon Slayer Commentaries. I am the only one that goes by that name. And if you are trying to recognize which Dragon Slayer Commentaries channel is the correct one, it's the one that has the dragon avatar with the blue and yellow hoodie on. I don't think, yeah, I don't think anyone has done that. So so I'm the only one with that model.
Check it out, his
And
content, guys. It's amazing and hilarious, and also very smart. I mean, I love your videos because your humor is smart humor.
no, yeah, I try to do that because, like, bro, how many? Like, I could talk like a troglodyte and probably get more views, but like, I don't care. I rather talk like a smart person and have people accuse me of being like the furry antichrist because they don't know that scalies exist, which is funny as hell because I'm neither. So I just have fun. I just have fun running circles around them. But for me at least, in all seriousness, what I try to do is I try to make sarcastic commentary videos. Sometimes there are a few ones that are quite serious because of the topics that were being covered at the time, but it's mostly sarcastic commentary of like any TV show or movie that has come out throughout recent times, both good or bad. Of course, mostly because of how things have been going in our current media. Of course,
Right.
it's been a lot of bad content to cover.
Yes.
Like, for example, the Rebel Moon movie and the Echo show, to name but the few. Those were like my last two. Yeah, as you can see, Coach is having a hard time breathing when I said those names. I'm sorry, Coach. But I mean, I could just say Rings of Power and he would just die on the spot. He almost did. He almost did. No,
Why you want to torture me at this time of the day? It's really not fair.
It's too late. It's too late for that.
Too late.
So, yeah, no. If you want to check me out again, channel is Dragon Slayer Commentaries. I've got quite an extensive video library as of
Nice.
this time, covering quite a variety of topics of TV shows and movies. Like, again, for example, two most recent ones are the Rebel Moon movie by Zack Snyder, the part one, and then the Echo Show by Disney. I, of course, have also covered the Velma HBO show and Rings of Power. And I always interact with the fellas over here, Coach and the Supreme Overlord Hypnotic. I always love hanging out with them and talking about all the variety of topics that happen throughout the week. Even if maybe I don't make videos on it because they're of a different niche than what I normally would do, I still enjoy talking about them because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do, like what your core job is, because at the end of the day, it doesn't hurt to know more about the world surrounding you. Because just like the great heroes of ancient myth, even though they each had their own unique tasks to accomplish, they were aware of the world around them. And like them, we should also be aware of what's happening around us so that, one, we don't become victims of the ruthless cycle of ignorance, but also so that we as individuals can become the pathfinders that blaze a
Yes.
new way into a brighter future.
Oh, that's absolutely magnificent what you said. And just to kind of finish up this thought is, yes, he is the cousin of Hercules that kind of gave him these 12 labors, turn Hercules in this an invincible and immortal god even more through the labors. He thought to ruin him through the hardmanship. He kind of, he forced him to go, but actually he made him just stronger. So he created that enemy that he always feared to have. Instead of just letting him go, he created that monster that ultimately became so famous. Monster in a positive way that became so famous to become one of the Olympians and then a constellation also in the sky, because that was the highest merit. So he turned him into that, into that immortal tale, right? By forcing him to go through all these hard labors. So sometimes in the creative process, right, you think, oh, that's not fair, oh, this shouldn't have happened, or I can't believe I have to do this again, or why is he asking me to do this over and over? It's like, oh, this shouldn't happen to me. Every time you say stuff like that to yourself, you're actually kind of turning the scope away from the potential lesson that you could learn, because behind all hardmanship, there is a lesson to learn. And even if it's coming from a place where you deem like this is someone that you don't like, it doesn't matter. So someone that you don't like gives you something to do, and that probably turns you into a better creator, that will teach you a lesson on how to improve. So even better so if it's coming from an enemy, because usually your enemies, they are the ones that are forging your best product, right? That's why Hercules said, the war is the true instructor. War is the real, kickstarter for evolution. Because when we have our shoulders pressed against the wall, this is when our best quality comes out. So embrace the difficulties of the creative process, embrace the suffering a little bit, embrace all the problems that might pop up, because if you have to come up with a solution, that just means that you have to come up with a smart way, and that smart way, that you won't forget that. So it will just make you a cleverer person, a better actor on the stage that the world represents, and therefore probably also like a higher achiever. Embrace everything that comes your way and see it in a positive way, in an optimistic way. This is also how you earn the respect of your so-called enemies, of your opponents, because they will have to finally see that you are, there to stay, and that you are of immaculate conception. And this is how you create a legacy, and you're not just short-sighted about the everyday revenue, but about the long-term reputation.
Yeah. So was that everyone? I just wish everyone that came to watch us a wonderful night, and like the greatest word in Quenya, Namarie, which means be well.
Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now you're ready to perform. See you next time with the next open class doodle. next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much, Dragon Slayer commentaries, for stopping by. See you on Saturday, also at Saturday Night Hypnosis. And then very soon, we're going to complete this wonderful mission, right? This first trilogy, because we had the Age of the Gods. Today, we highlighted Hercules, but Hercules represents the age of heroes, according to Homer. And then we have the last cycle, the age of the Battle of Troy, which is then, of course, the Iliad, which represents the Odyssey of Odysseus, of Ulysses, who interacted in the last development before we then came into antiquity and the start of the Roman Empire. So we're definitely going to have like a third hangout. If that's going to be the final one about Greek mythology, I don't know. Maybe we're going to add something else, but definitely a third one. So watch out for these two bigots. And see you soon, guys, whenever it's time to learn and to improve.
See you soon, everyone.
Thank you.